All right, so we'll reopen the public meeting session at 5:10. Today's November 18, 2019, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we're waiting for Michelle Holton to come down for financial review. Do we want to, is she coming down here?
I think so.
I was gonna say we could skip ahead if we wanted to, but. Hello,
Hello.
you got your voice with you today?
I do. It's a little different than usual, but
Haven't heard that in a month.
oh,
All right, so we're on item A, analysis of revenue and expenditures report with Michelle Holton.
Just want to open with the...
We already did.
Oh, you did?
I was assuming.
We had some dead air, so we had to.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Not me.
Not me.
Must be Jill. So we're 4 months into the budget season,
yes, so we are 1/3 of the way through the year.
right?
Currently, our revenues are at 46.9%, but a few big contributors are the grant revenue, 40500, and entrance and SDC, which is 40413 and 40600. We have had quite a few new entrance applications coming in. But otherwise, we can see we're a bit ahead of budget at this point, but these are our stronger months. So it's as expected. And when you do look at the prior year comparison,
I forgot the merchandise sale. That's not MVD fan T-shirts,
no.
jerseys.
We do sometimes have a local contractor who may not be able to find something and thinks maybe we'll have it. It's very few and far between, and sometimes some customers will purchase a meter and they pay outright for it.
Okay, what was the first part?
Sometimes it's very nominal, but we may have a local contractor who needs a plumbing type part that we would have,
Oh, okay.
and we do charge a markup, but they're very, very nominal.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions on any particular, excuse me, revenue line items? If you pop over to the prior year comparison, you can see for domestic and water, the change is 16.4 and 17% respectively. And with our rate change, we're right in line as far as usage. The industrial does show a big difference, but it's a small item. We've had some reclassifications of categories, so that's where that comes from.
I find account 90-200 debt service principal at 78% on page 3. I think that's an interesting one because that explains the rate increase quite a bit too.
Mhm.
You know, when people ask why is such a drastic rate increase, we're 78% over our budget as far as the debt service goes because the prior year budget did not include the rate increase.
Correct, yes, we did have a new loan that had come on in the prior year, so.
Right.
Yep,
But
we're
again,
gonna-
that's how the rate increase and our budget, tied together, for the
That's a
public.
cause of the,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, as-
78% here indicate that the rate increase, is substantiated.
Well, now the 78% is where we are against budget for the year. We currently,
Right.
we simply post as they're paid, so this is paid earlier in the year. We're going to be right at budget come the year end. We just have that one additional 55,000, the difference in the budget.
I thought we had deferred that.
The difference is 55,000, and that's an additional loan payment that we will make by the end of the year. So our loans are done by the amortization schedules. So this is just a timing showing that the biggest payment was made earlier in the year.
Right.
So we're just doing it against the annual budget, but it's going to be spot on because we actually have actual amortization schedules. But we did have a new debt payment come on starting the year before for 7 and 8. So that was a big factor in the
Right.
rate increase.
Right. But didn't we talk about making deferrals for these spikes and valleys in cost and?
Well, for the loans, the way we've always historically done it is sort of the one-offs as they're paid. And if we drew it up at the end of the year, so we'd have to work through looking at both our prior year and how we're going to handle the end of this year if we're going to start doing that with the auditors. And I haven't had a chance to do that with them yet. So for right now, it's basically we paid the 205. We will have another $55,000 principal payment and hit 100% for the year.
Okay.
Is how that.
Right, but my question is, we had talked in prior meetings over the last year and a half that we wanted to take those peak and valley kind of cost items, and that we wanted to create reserves ahead of time, or use deferrals to level them out over the course of the year, so we have a more continuous tracking of a budget. Right?
Yes, no, I know that we have mentioned it. Just at this point, we haven't had a chance to do it.
Which is fine. I'm only asking: is that still the plan, or is that?
Yes, we can definitely do that for some of the larger items. We have to look at, also, we've mentioned it with R&M, office expense. It's a lot of our service contracts, which can be $15,000, $20,000. Now they are getting bigger as we've added on some modules. And that's something we can do. There we run into an issue where they cross over the year. The debt, we do always tie out the end of the year. But as far as the R&M maintenance accounts, those, we've just had annual payments to them as part of each budget. We haven't done it where they cross over. We've only done that with our insurance. So that's just something that we have to look at, how we're going to kind of have a break and then have a fresh approach to it.
Right? Yeah, right. Okay.
And as far as other expense line items, most of the differences that have a percentage against budget greater than the 33% are timing issues. 60200 uniforms, we just happen to load all our accounts for the field staff, so theirs go on to a gift card type setup for working gear. Electricity is a little over, account 60000, but once again, our higher output times, that's where we're going to see a little bit higher cost associated with that. We've previously discussed 60500, motor vehicle maintenance. The registrations are in September, so that's going to front load for the year. And other items down the line here, leases, 60800. There is going to be a $1,200 or $1,300 adjustment. One of the lease payments ended up being moved to be paid on the credit card, and it crossed over in the year, so I still have that adjustment to do. Office equipment, we bought a couple of computers that were budgeted for, but just the timing makes us a little ahead of the game against budget so far. 70525, which is R&M office equipment. Once again, that includes some of the service contracts that cross over years. So we're going to work out with the auditors how they want us to do that. We can either have the contracts have a short term one that will end at the fiscal year and then be fiscal year based going forward. And then postage, we've already discussed, was from some of our mailings. And then, as we just mentioned, the debt service is also a timing issue. Our total expenses are at 28.4%, so those are almost right about 5% less than the point that we are in the year, and with our revenues where they are at 46.9, we're coming out with our net ordinary income of almost $712,000. Did anyone have any particular expense items they were wanting further info on? Oh, okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so for our prior year comparison, as I said, when you look at the water sales, you can see that the increase shows that it's in line with our rate change for the two largest categories of domestic and mercantile. We are ahead as far as grant revenues, both against prior year, and it was also a factor against budget, as in the matching grant that we now are receiving at the time of budget we weren't aware of. And our entrance and system development are also ahead of where we were last year at the same time. But if you do go to expenses on page 3, the overall expense difference is just under 1% change for the same period. So we're seeing both the rate change and then some of the unexpected items such as the entrances and also the grant revenues that we're starting to see come in, impact us there. Profit and loss by month then follows. Does anyone have any questions on any particular months or items there? As we can see with the water usage, it does show the expected cyclical usage that does happen during the year.
People using less water in the fall and winter.
Yep.
Okay.
And then there's our bank balances. TD Bank, I'm having a final proposal from them on Thursday morning as far as their investment options for us, just different ways they're willing to structure things to give us a bit of a better rate. They're not going to be able to reach the level that PDIP has consistently been paying out, but they have some different factors that they'd like us to consider before we make the move to pushing more funds over to PDIP. So after that, I'm going to have Kathy come in so she and I can sit down, and then next month we can just talk with everyone again to see if we're wanting to make any changes in how our investment policy works. Currently, it says, we can push over the monies to PDIP. I don't know if we're going to need to make any adjustment if we're choosing to keep the majority of it with TD Bank, if we so choose, but we can review all of that then. Any questions?
I'm okay.
Did you want to touch on the billing issues of today?
Yeah.
Okay. As a few folks have mentioned, we had a few billing issues that came up today. There were some questions that were related to the partial billing that we did. As of July 1, when we had the rate change, we billed everyone, all customers, at the old rate for the usage through July 1, and also billed them one last time for their meter, hydrant, and sprinkler, if applicable, at the old rate. Their next bill for 2 of the cycles, for those who were on their regular cycle, that was their bill. And their next full quarter bill would now reflect full charges for all items at the new rates. For those that were on different cycles, they would then get a partial bill that 1 month or 2 months of just usage because they paid for the meter, hydrant, and sprinkler with the July 1 bill. Now folks are starting to get their next full quarter bill, and some people are just looking at the last payment they made, which was for a partial bill, and wondering what's going on here. So that's part of the explanation for some of the confusion. Some customers weren't aware of the rate increases, but everyone's been very good and open with reviewing things with us and just getting a better understanding of what had happened. We also have started to charge our $5 late fee monthly, as well as send out a second bill reminding people of the balance in that there has been the $5 charged on, actually as per our bylaws. If we are to charge the fee, we do need to have a statement reflecting that.
What's the timing of all of this? So what date is the bill issued, and then when is it due, and when is the late fee assessed?
We always make sure when we assess the late fees, we take all payments that we've received, including even overnight, the previous night, the credit cards, the e-checks. We process all payments that we are aware of. Then we assess what accounts are due a late fee. Those are assessed, and we do the bill processing. So we're making sure we are capturing all payments. There have been issues with some folks who pay by electronic bill pay. They're under the understanding if they say, get it there by the 10th, it's due on the 10th. So the bill goes out around, I would say between the 12th to 14th, and then it's due the following month on the 10th. Some folks think that with their e-bill setup, saying that we'd like it received by such and such a date, we actually are mailed checks by the banks. And the postal systems in various places aren't always quite as reliable as we'd like. So we've made folks aware of, by the way, we actually got it 3 days late, and you just need to adjust your dates. And folks have been open to that, go back to their financial institution and adjust accordingly. Speaking of the post office, one other potential issue that's come to light is that our customers haven't been receiving bills. The last few months we have had a handful here and there, maybe 3 or 4, 5, 8, 10, just here and there people would be saying they hadn't received a bill, but it was spread out. We just thought it was perhaps one-offs. And then in the last 2 weeks, we are now at 90 customers who did not receive their October bill. We've been logging this. We received 70 of those today. We were at 20. We started logging for the month of November. And now we received 70 today, and we still had incoming calls and customers upstairs.
When you say receipt, what do you mean by that? The payment? We received payment, or?
No, they had not received their bills.
70 people said they didn't receive
Okay.
their bill.
90 at this point.
Right, okay, right.
Yeah, so we're planning on touching base with the post office to see if they have any idea. We've checked our systems. We know how many pieces we send, and we verified it against the postage charges that have been processed by the post office, and all pieces are accounted for at that stage. So something from there seems to be off, and we're going to keep looking into it. Amy was posting to our site and Facebook an update, just letting people know that we have this situation going on. And
Do we actually use the outside service to send the bills out, or do they actually come from here?
we go through an outside service, but the issue of people telling us they weren't getting bills has been ongoing. Like I said, it was small pockets. Definitely, it seems like it has ramped up in the last couple months, but as I said, we know we give them 1,800 pieces, and we see that they brought 1,800 pieces that we're processing.
Is there a verification that our service is actually sending them out?
Yes, I verify our post. We create the postage sheet that goes through our permit account. So then I verify that every month, and I check pieces and all the charges and our account balances.
So you got confirmation that the service is sending them out, and then from there,
we don't know
what's
what's on right now.
Why they're not getting to the houses seems to be
The question at this point. So we're going to approach the post office and see if they have any insight, if they've had other businesses, customers, to see if it's in a certain area.
I was going to ask, is there any concentration that we know from the people that notified us?
Well, today we were dealing with 70 people telling us about it, so we didn't have a chance to sort of graph those out to see.
Right.
But it wasn't, we certainly weren't seeing just a solid, a few streets or anything like that.
Okay.
But as far as seeing if they're in a certain part of town, we haven't had a chance to do that yet.
You do know that there's Google features where you can upload a list and it maps it maps pins on a map for you, so you don't have to look up addresses.
Oh, no, I did not.
I'll look
Okay,
it up.
you can send that along. That would be a big help. We can just throw those in tomorrow.
Yeah, if you have a list, you can have that generated for you.
Okay, that would be great.
So are you waiving the late fee for these people?
Yes, in the instance that we're finding that folks did not receive their bill, and also with just some of the confusion that's gone on when we find that someone's had a very good history with us,
Yeah.
we're very flexible in reviewing things and, accommodating, refunding, adjusting of the late fee.
That's
when
important,
deemed.
especially if they've got a good payment history all along.
Yes,
It's clear that it's something
Mhm.
out of the ordinary going on, so.
yeah,
That's good.
and we're always open to
Yeah.
work with folks, and we need to with all the changes that have happened, and that we're doing it monthly. Pardon?
I know that firsthand. I was delinquent again myself. I'm just gonna say I didn't receive the bill.
Yeah. We might make you appeal to the board.
Probably you, 100,000 other people.
Does anyone have any other questions?
No, but I'm assuming you might talk to them about there was a month ago when we sent out the mailer for the MCL notice to that was townwide, and there were a lot of people who didn't get that either, so, there's another thing that
Mhm.
appears to have happened with the postal service,
Mhm.
so definitely mention that to them.
Oh, we definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause
She's got a
it's-
list from the last time the
Mhm.
postmaster does, so I went down and went over it, whether maybe they couldn't come up with any sort of pattern at all. It was just all over
Really?
the place.
Huh.
So maybe this time.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. And we'll see, actually, we can upload all of that and see if something crosses to
sure,
identify a certain area, a certain route.
right,
Oh, and as I did mention to you too, we do know that all mail does route to Manchester and then
Right.
routes back to us. So there's a couple of systems involved. So
so
they may have to
Merrimack
look.
doesn't sort it and send it, it just
Yes.
goes to
A lot of
to
places
Manchester.
I've been aware of throughout the years would have a local option, that it was handled in-house for local delivery. But one of the things in talking with the post office at different times, they had told us that everything does go to Manchester.
Okay,
So we'll keep looking into it and keep folks updated.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks for your time,
thank you.
glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, we're in Board of Commissioners to discuss capital projects with Underwood Engineers. So, go ahead. The first thing up was
We're gonna go first on Turkey Hill.
Turkey Hill Booster Station is up first. Great.
So that one should be relatively quick. So I'm Tim Poltz from Underwood Engineers, here to discuss the Turkey Hill Booster Pump Station. And so we opened the bids on October 29th. We had 6 different bids. The apparent low bidder was Penta at $888,800. And I'm here to request a recommendation, or a vote to recommend to the state to give the
To award them.
contract to Penta.
That is the same contract as 2 and 3, right? I'm
Same
sorry, 4 and 5.
as 4 and
Yeah.
5, yeah.
Now, this was a project that we had town meeting approval for $1.3 million? Is that right?
Yes.
That's the loan amount, yeah.
And what's the difference between that and where the bid came in? Is that engineering costs and all that, or is this bid just that much lower?
This bid is that much lower. So what this bid gives us is about a 20% buffer between all of our the engineering fees, this construction cost, and the loan. So it's a 20% contingency.
So it was a
in there.
contingency in the 1.3 number, basically?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. To make up that 1.3, we got about 20%.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
change.
I
A
think
bid that
last,
comes in under bid as opposed to over, that's, that's the right direction.
Yeah.
Right.
We're gonna have Tim do all the rest of the work.
You just stay in the back.
I think they're planning on using the same super from the 4 and 5 project, so I think they had a little bit of a heads up
Crossover
on other
there, yeah.
people,
Yeah.
you know, so he can cover both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's a nice plus.
it is great.
Yeah.
Good. So, what do you need from us tonight, just to, we got a motion here, I think, right? Is
Yeah,
that
I guess
correct?
it's just an authorization to make that recommendation to the state.
Right.
Gonna say it's already prepared for you.
Yeah, so if one of you commissioners wishes to make a motion.
I will.
Second.
Haven't made it yet.
Nice try.
Let me read it first. I move the district award the bid for the project known as Turkey Hill Booster Pumping Station to Penta Corporation of Moulton Borough, New Hampshire, in the amount of $888,800, based on the bid results and summary of bids prepared by Underwood Engineers and reviewed by the MVD Commissioners on November 18th, 2019. This authorization is contingent on NHDS final approval to award the contract.
Motion by Joe,
Seconded.
second by Ken. Any other discussion?
Let's do it.
Seeing none, let's call the motion, and everybody in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposition or abstentions? None? That carries 4-0-0. That's good. So what's
Can I-
the,
Can I ask,
yeah,
well, the bid tabulation, can we print that a little bit bigger next time?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. The scale got a little
Yeah.
messed up. Because we went with 11 by
Very
17.
difficult to read.
Sure.
what, without putting you on the spot, just roughly, what's the time frame next on this as far as construction and when
So-
that might be completed?
Yeah, time frame would be beginning in the spring, construction would start.
So we're not
the
trying to
big,
do this over the winter or nothing like that, right?
the big piece that, the way we bid this was to do a prefabricated building. And so, given that Pento is going to follow suit and go for a prefab building, then those take anywhere from 16 to 18 weeks of lead time. So there'll be a shop drawing process and just a back and forth with the vendor. And once that gets approved, then we can utilize the winter for that to be built, and then have it, and then start the field and the yard work come springtime.
Yeah, so I assume all the piping and everything will be done first and probably brought up through a foundation or something? It's above
Yeah.
grade structure, right? It's not
Yep.
below grade.
Yeah, so there'll be frost walls and a slab, and then so the shop drawings have to be they have to be done first, and the building starting to be built, and then they can line that up with where the pipes come up. Because if the pipes come up, off, then we have a huge problem.
Right.
So it's kind of works out good this way that we can go through this. We don't do the field or the site work first, and then have to build the building
To
to
fit the
match the
site,
site
yeah.
work, and they're not ongoing in parallel where we get off a little bit. So I think this works out really well, where we're gonna do the building over the winter and get it all lined up, and then
Okay.
we'll be ready to go in the spring. So hopefully by next fall is the plan. Build through the summer and then be ready to go for startup in the fall.
So is this gonna be built like next to the existing pump station pit that's there now?
Yeah.
And then at the last minute, the last thing is to remove that equipment of the old pump station off the site?
Yes. Yeah. So they'll both have to be up and running for a little while
Right.
to make sure you maintain service. And once the new system, the new station is accepted by the town, by MVD, then they'll start to dismantle the old
Dismantle the old
station.
one. Okay.
Yeah.
So that, so you're thinking of starting in the spring, probably gonna go all summer long? Like, what's the time frame once construction starts? Any idea on that? 4 months or something, or?
I don't know for sure.
All right.
Yeah. I would say, just a guess would be, 4 to 6 months.
Okay,
Especially with getting the building done first, and if that can be done over the winter, then I think things can move along relatively quickly. And there's another contract with a mixer and the cleaning of the tank that will be coordinated with this work. The mixer is a separate
Oh.
contract
yeah,
that MVD, Ron, is going to,
You know, it's the improvements that we had, I think in last year's budget that just never, didn't get done, we're waiting for this to happen to kind of coordinate coordinate the projects.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of electrical overlap is the big thing, and SCADA overlap. So it kind of all needs to somewhat go in parallel to get it all tied together.
Okay. Great.
So.
Any other questions? No? Good.
Okay.
Very good.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
You know what, I'm
To
sorry,
the-
I had one quick
the main
question.
act.
Nope, one question.
Just,
Oh, sorry,
I'm
yeah.
sorry about that. I knew I had one, I forgot, and I actually wrote it down. The NEMA enclosures.
Yes. Yes, we went with the
Sorry to be a
NEMA.
pain here, but.
I was thinking of it. I was thinking of it
So,
too.
spray water,
Yes, we
Protection?
went NEMA 4,
Okay.
and so through a little bit of research, we found that there's other folks doing this design where, so the VFDs create a lot of heat,
Right.
and so they have to be ventilated somehow,
Right.
so the NEMA 4s are really enclosed.
right,
And so there'll be a vent and a fan
Right.
put on one side with a shroud over the top of that vent, and then a vent on the other side. The fan will go on one side or the other, just to draw air through and across the VFDs.
yeah,
So that's the current design.
okay,
So it's basically a waterproof panel enclosure.
Yeah, the NEMA 4 goes up to full waterproof, splash proof, direct spray proof, all that. So it's kind of the most robust or most sealed.
Yeah.
But since it's sealed, then we need some sort of
Right,
cooling
ventilation.
to release the heat from the
Now, is this
VFDs.
gonna have
which
like,
means you guys are gonna have to have a maintenance schedule on the fan filters and stuff.
do you know if there's like a user touch screen on there, or is it just all handoff auto switches on the panel?
For
Just
the-
like all of that stuff is waterproof, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
The panel, I know the panel faces can be a different NEMA rating than the actual enclosure.
Uh-huh.
And so the panel faces are usually the NEMA 4. And then this time now we're doing the enclosure and everything is all NEMA 4 rated. And so we talked with Lee Carroll, he's the electrical sub, and he talked about a re-rating due to that type of design down to a NEMA 3R with the shroud. Does that, you know what I'm saying? So they can't call it a NEMA 4 because now it's not completely enclosed. But
Oh, yeah.
we're protecting any sort of inlet and outlet with the shroud.
Okay,
It's just a metal shroud that comes down, kind of like a shroud on your dryer vent coming out of your house, a little shroud like that. That will
Yeah.
keep it from water from getting in there.
All right, cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry to call you back.
Yeah.
all right. Next item is the repurposing of engineering service request number 42 funds.
So I put together a letter on that today, which I didn't make a whole bunch of copies of. Should I just give that to Jill? I mean, and I can just discuss it. Okay, but that'll be the formal letter. So what we're talking about here is the project that was called the short-term temporary caustic feed, and that was going to be putting in a caustic feed at well 7 in anticipation of getting rid of the lime.
They do have the ESR in their packet to refer to as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
They do have the ESR
Oh,
in their
okay,
packet.
okay.
We can refer to that if you'd like.
Okay. So that was ESR number 42,
Yep.
dated 7/26/2018. And task 2 of that was the well 7 caustic, with the idea being that there was concern that the lime was plating onto the green sand filters and maybe blinding them early. And we talked about replacing the lime with caustic. Got an ESR to do that, actually started the work, and then Kevin said time out. He didn't really want to do that at that point and asked us to hold off. Then things developed with the whole feasibility study, and now we are doing a treatment plant upgrade to 7 and 8. So that money just kept sitting there.
So it's probably good we didn't do this, because then we would have to undo it all and put it in the new.
Yeah, or use what you could, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd only build 1,058 of that, and this will be in this little table in this letter that I just gave to Jill. So there's $16,742 remaining in that. So and then we have been talking with Jim Malley at UNH about doing a peer review on the RSSCT work, reviewing our preliminary design reports, and just being available for technical resistance for all peer review questions. And we set a contract limit of $10,000 with him. And that's sort of an arbitrary amount. I know Ron said that he was getting himself off the floor when he heard that amount. That was an amount really that Keith set based on another contract that we have with Jim Malley on Dover. So it's a similar amount. If we just make that change, then we're just transferring money from, one budget to another, so there's no increase in terms of appropriations. So the letter is just requesting that and has a place to sign off on that. And I think if we do it that way, then we don't really need to do another ESR or anything, because the ESRs are already there. We're just transferring funds from one project number to another. So if that makes sense.
So all of these items that you were going to do, the caustic feed and all that stuff, that's already part of your design contracts for wells 7 and 8?
For 7 and 8, we'll be doing that. Yeah, we'll be doing caustic. And, we've been talking about, whether we're going to need to go to 50% caustic and whether there's enough space in the caustic tank that's in 7 and 8 now to do that. And it may not be. We may need to be feeding some caustic in the well 7 building anyways. But that, there's some money left in here if we need to design that. Plus, it's part of our final design contract.
And then we're doing, so this is going in all our well pump houses, right? 4 and 5 and 2 and 3?
Caustic is, yes.
Yeah.
Lime is being replaced
Right.
everywhere.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's going with a liquid instead of that?
Going with a liquid
powder.
sodium hydroxide instead of hydrated lime
Right.
that you have to mix.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you talked to the guys who do
It's
this,
white dust everywhere.
I mean, I'm not aware.
I have to do this.
I'm not aware of any other system, or maybe you are, but there's very few systems that use lime anymore because of this, because of the maintenance headaches and everything else with it.
Right.
The plus of it is that you can drop lime all over your hand and it doesn't matter.
Right.
You spill 25 or 50% caustic on your hand, you need a shower and you need to get that off you. So,
Right.
there is a safety thing. However,
But it should be typically less work for the operator to have to physically move these bags around and put them in the shaker and all that stuff.
much less, because
When you're
now,
transferring caustic, you got dedicated pumps that you don't have to touch the equipment, basically, right?
correct, there'll be a tanker truck that will come in, you'll connect to a hose with a fitting that will fill the tank, you'll be there to watch it, and once it's full, you let the guy know, or you have an automatic shut-off. And then there's a transfer pump that would pump it to a day tank, and correct me if I'm saying anything out of turn. And then from a day tank, you're feeding it into the
Injection, right,
system with a
yeah.
metering pump. So there's no more, carrying bags and breaking bags and.
Deliveries of pallets of bags and of lime. Okay.
Right,
Yeah, the only time you would get it if you have to if there's any leak or something, you have to fix it, then you would have to, personal protective equipment
Sure.
that you can be wearing to deal with that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Just a general question about these caustic feed systems. If in the future we wanted to go to potassium hydroxide instead of sodium hydroxide,
Mhm.
just to lower the sodium levels in the water,
Mhm.
because you're adding a little bit more sodium when you're using
Correct.
sodium hydroxide. Is that directly, we can just change chemical, or would we have to change any of the components, the equipment?
I
don't know if it
think, and you want me, I think.
If you don't have an answer, I mean, just maybe.
No, I
one-
think the only thing we want to verify is some of the materials, like when you get into some of the gasket materials and some of the other parts that are in contact with the
transfer
chemical.
pump and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that KOH, that's potassium hydroxide, is very much the same as sodium hydroxide. So I think they are interchangeable, but we'll check with that.
Yeah, it'd probably be good when you spec a bulk tank and a day tank or something to make
Mhm.
sure that they're compatible with KOH.
I think
It's something
tank-wise, I
could
think we're all
see
set. I think it's more like you were saying, the
the
gasketing.
seals and whatnot.
And then
pump
with,
it.
and your liquid end of your pumps and that type of thing, if you want to just verify.
Yeah, we'll check with that. And I know that when I worked in Mass, and I know you do more work down there, when the first corrosion control days started, I go back to that.
Yeah, me too.
In Mass, we were using potassium hydroxide in a lot of places because of the concern about sodium,
Right.
and Mass was much more forcing the 20 milligrams per liter. If you're over that, we need, in accordance with the American Heart Association, we need to notify customers.
Right.
Obviously, we're way over,
Right.
that
Right,
here.
20.
So that could be a reason to be looking at potassium hydroxide. It's generally a
I'm
little
just
bit more
wondering
expensive.
if, our sodium levels have certainly been creeping up over
Mhm.
the years, and it might, at some point, I don't know how much sodium we're adding in, but if that's something we need to do, is to change the potassium hydroxide. I know it's probably a little more costly from what I understand, but just want to make sure it's compatible if we did need to do that.
Yeah, we'll check with that. And yes, you're right. I mean, you can do the chemical equation. For every ion you're exchanging, you're adding a sodium ion.
Right, yep. Okay.
Okay? So, that letter's with Jill. If you can look at that, and if you're good with that, you can sign off on that, and we will, as it is, I've already sent the contract out to Jim Alley, so that they can get that going.
You don't need a motion from us to be able to sign off on that, right? You
I
guys
was
are,
going to make copies so you could read it first.
okay.
I don't know if it's whether you need a motion or not. I leave that up to you, because it's
Right.
moving from pot to pot.
Right. All right, so what are we
Okay.
on now? Wells 4 and 5 treatment plant construction?
Okay, you want to go?
Yeah,
What?
that's the 2, 3, so we'll just wait, do that at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Whichever order you want, doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can do that, yeah. Till you get back in, yeah.
So I'll let you give a general construction, and then I can talk about all four.
Yeah, so, quick rundown on 4 and 5. I don't know if you've been out there. I know Joe came out for the meeting and stuff. So the foundation walls are in, the tank slab, or the vessel pad is in this. That's the 2-foot thick pad that has been poured. The containment area for the caustic room has been poured. So they're moving along with that. The plumber's in there now, doing the under slab piping, and then they're gonna, after he's done, that's all the rough plumbing, then they're gonna backfill it up to grade and pour the rest of the slabs. So they're coming along, decently on that. Their mason is a little bit behind, so instead of doing the masonry work in more of December and then kind of waiting for the vessels to come in February, they're gonna be probably waiting around a little bit in December and then doing the masonry work in January, and then when the vessels come in February. So it's that part's a little, but it doesn't affect the critical path type of thing. So in terms of the one thing, the big item is the shop drawing for the Evoqua, and so we have received that shop drawing. We have had comments on it. We had a conference call with Evoqua. They have provided more information on that, and we're reviewing the stuff, and we're hoping that as early as tomorrow we can ship that back to them as a furnishing, as corrected shop drawing, and then they can get that into their process. So production, I should say. Yeah.
So the vessels are gonna be exposed then to weather for,
No, they will not. So the masonry, so if everything works out as scheduled, the masonry will be done in the January timeframe, and that's gonna obviously have to be tented for weather and stuff like that. And then when the vessels come in, then they're gonna plop those in and then put the roof on. So there's gonna be some days or a week or something like that it might be exposed to weather, but they're not gonna be just sitting outside for 2 months or anything, yeah. And then they were talking about, at least on the, you got a tall building where the vessels are, then we have the shorter height building. The idea initially was to do the masonry work there, put the roof on there, maybe they could start doing some rough electrical work, running some conduits along the walls, doing some, process piping in there and that type of thing. Now with the mason being delayed a little bit, that might change things, but they don't think it's gonna affect the schedule at all for, the overall schedule.
Does the mason just have a different project ahead of this one or something? Or
I
what,
assume so.
yeah.
He didn't, we didn't really get into, he didn't really say it at the meeting, yeah.
We didn't-
But that's what I assume, if he's not coming in. I assume they're not saying, oh, let's wait the winter when it's colder to do it.
I know, right?
But they actually did a very nice job on, they understand that when you cold weather concrete and the masonry, that you have to do things to protect it from the cold.
Yeah.
And when they were pouring the vessel pad, they did a very nice job of, they had a whole tent on that, heating it overnight so the rebar was warm when the concrete came. And then once the concrete came, they poured it and they rough finished it. They covered that up, kept that warm, and then once that then you got to wait till that sets up a little bit so you can do actually the final finishing. Then they did that. Then they put blankets over that. They had a ground heating system, which so you like to thaw ground. You run a bunch of hoses and run hot water through it. So then they had that there. So once they put the blankets on there, they could run the hoses over the underneath that blanket to kind of keep it warm. So they have it. They're doing a nice job, at least right now. So I assume that when they're doing the tenting for the masonry, it's going to be the same type of thing. They
Okay.
to keep that enclosed, to keep
All right.
that, because you got a thin mortar layer, so gotta make sure that doesn't freeze out on
Yeah.
and stuff. So that one's moving along nicely.
Okay. That's good.
Well 4 replacement?
Oh, well, we got 7, I think 7, 8 was the next one in line.
No, we gotta talk about, this is well 4.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah,
So,
yeah.
So well 4, we've talked about this last meeting, where Barry Miller thought that, who's done the work before. I'll just quickly recap that Barry has done work on these pumps so that this is a bronze Everdur screen that is in well 4, which is an old kind of material that they used to use for screens that that was put in 1956. And what they found is this material corrodes over the years and essentially disappears eventually. But they had a problem with this screen 20 years ago as an aligner screen was put in. So a smaller diameter stainless steel liner screen was put in. And now we have in this spec to clean and rehab the well. And Barry says, I'm afraid that if I try and do that, the rest of that screen is going to go. That'll cause some shifting of materials, and we could end up pumping sand and or gravel. So he's like, if we're not going to replace the well, I'm afraid of doing this. I'd come to you before where he'd thrown out a cost, I think, of $120,000 to $150,000, if I'm recalling correctly the numbers. I don't have that in front of me.
150 to 160.
150 to 160, okay. So now, we have actual estimates from him. We have it from Emery and Garrett. Oh, the other thing was, what Barry was proposing was to over-drill the well in the same location. And hopefully by doing that, avoid the regulatory costs of a replacement well. And DES said, no, you are going to need to jump through the hoops of the permitting cost of a replacement well, whether you put it in place or whether you put it next to it. And they said, we think you should put it next to it, because that way if there's any issues with consolidation of the materials over the years, that you're actually in a good new spot right next to it. So they kind of kiboshed the idea of installing in place as a means of a less regulatory path. So based on that, Barry said, okay, well, to do the replacement well next to it, he gave us a cost. We got a cost from Emery and Garrett. We have the cost because it's part of Penta. There's a markup in that, and we have some money in there for our oversight. So total cost of that ends up being about, if I round up, $115,000 to totally replace that well, for all of the permitting and everything, to have it in the ground and ready to go as a new well. And if we're going to do that, then that would be that would have to come out of contingency, and right now contingency is sort of in capital reserve because when we passed the budget, we didn't pass more for contingency, we just passed the bid amount.
So Penta is involved in this because Barry was going to clean the wells under their contract to begin with?
Under their sub, right.
All right.
Yeah, and then there would be a deduct for the well cleaning that is in the project with Penta.
Yeah. All right. They wouldn't be willing to relinquish that altogether, and it's almost like we're putting in a new well.
It occurred to me, as I was looking at the prices, that you have Penta as a markup, you know, that you wouldn't have had if you were doing it individually.
Right.
I don't know if that's something that they would want to remove from the contract and just do to Barry. I don't know what you feel the ramifications of that are. You know, there's...
Yeah, so Barry is, you know, so the initial project was to go in there and, you know, to come down, dig around the well, cut off the casing down lower so you can put a pitless adapter on, and then run that pipe somewhere around 15 feet or so to connect up to the existing piping, you know?
Okay.
So that was the work that they had to do. So if you did move it over, you know, you'd be saving some, you know, you'd be sort of saving. If you did the work right now, then all of a sudden you say next year, okay, let's put that well in there. Now you're gonna have to put a new pitless in there and all that's gonna. So if you waited, it's gonna be more than the 115. But yes, you know, so some of this work is all involved with Penta, and some of it is.
And by contract, they get a 10% markup on anything on their subs.
Yeah.
What do we do with the existing well after we abandon it?
You would abandon it. You would.
Yeah, decommission it, fill it
Yeah.
up with.
I assume that's what DES is going to want you to do, because that's typically when you put in a replacement well, part of it is abandoning the existing well. And for those watching, abandoning, it doesn't mean just leaving it, it means filling it up.
Decommissioning it. basically.
Decommissioning it, and you fill it with sand or gravel up to a certain level,
Maybe
and then
concrete on the top or
concrete or bentonite up to the
Yeah.
top.
Did Barry's cost include that?
I was just gonna ask.
I
about that.
don't,
Probably not.
I only have a number, I don't know what's
Yeah.
in there.
Let me verify that.
Well, I would say if we're gonna do this and then we were gonna abandon the existing well, maybe we keep that out of Penta's contract and we just do that separately on our own, right? Can we?
You can put you can do this now and put it on, and then we wouldn't, you know, because of Barry's concern about cleaning it and that could cause damage to the well. I think we would just put the pitless on and then.
No, I think he's going to,
Oh, I'm
he said,
sorry.
because I think he was saying if we hired Barry to do that
decommission.
work.
Yeah, if we have Barry put the new well in,
Oh, do it now.
and then looking at the well to be decommissioned, we can just pay for that on our own. We don't have to run the decommissioning through Penta. Because they didn't have the decommissioning in their contract to begin with, so.
No, I don't see why you would. No, you could hire him to do that.
Yeah, I think, what's their markup?
10%.
Yeah, what is it? So their markup is, yeah, about 7,700.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Barry's price is about 7,700, so it's about 7,700 markup on that. So I didn't necessarily come thinking that this is a decision that you have to make sitting right here, right now. You can, right? I mean, what's our time frame on?
Yeah, no, yeah, they just, so if they're gonna go out there and do some of that, you know, put the pitless in there, you obviously wanna be doing that
Sooner
than later. So if you go with the replacement well, then Emery and Garrett's gonna need to do some of their work on the permitting part to get the approval for that, and then they can drill, so maybe they can do the drilling in the winter, and then in the spring, they would have to come in and put the pitless on in that last piping.
Is there
because-
like a pump test and all that needs to?
So I was just going to
run?
say the preliminary, the replacement well process is, are you familiar with the New Hampshire
Yeah.
process? So the New Hampshire process for a new well is after you do your investigation to say you're going to put a well in, you have to do a preliminary hydrogeologic report that you send into DES that says, here's where we're going to put it. We've checked potential contamination sources. Here's the materials. Here's what we're going to pump. And they sort of approve that, and you also have your plan for doing an extended pump test. And then you're gonna do, for a new well, a 5-day pump test at minimum. And then they're gonna run that and put in a bunch of monitoring wells and measure levels as that well is pumped and take water quality data, and then create a final hydrogeologic report which sums up the pump test and all of the water quality data and projects the yield of that well out to 180 days with no recharge as to how far out that would go. And they do that usually with modeling, and that's how they figure out the wellhead protection area for a new well. These wells, that's already been done. So for a replacement well, the process is you do a replacement well report. It's like the preliminary report, only not as intense. And then you do have to do a pump test. I think it's only a 72-hour pump test for a replacement well. And there is a final replacement well report. So you still have, you know, a sort of a preliminary report, the pump test, and the final report. It's just all compressed. And you don't have to go through the large groundwater withdrawal notification rules. So you aren't, you know, notifying adjacent systems and owners and public hearing process. You don't go through all that. But, so it's regulatory less intense than a new well, but what Barry was looking for was a way to make it even less intense by just doing it in the same spot, thinking this is maintenance, but
Consider it well rehabilitation instead of replacement.
right. And I don't disagree with him that if you're putting the same well in the same spot, why do you need to go through the hoops again? But I'm not the person that makes those calls.
Who at DEP was?
DES was
DES.
Steve Roy is the guy who's in charge up there, and he was the one that we talked to who made that determination.
Yeah. So where would the new one go? How far away from the old one?
I don't know exactly, but typically we put them, you know, where it's convenient, but we know 15, 20 feet, you know, so that you can, you know, you're trying to make sure you're in the same formation. You want enough room to move and work so that you're not interfering with the other well, because, you know, it may be active while you're doing that. I don't think so in this case, but not in this case, but.
Yeah. So the 115 number includes Emery and Garrett.
Includes Emery and Garrett,
The
includes
well
us,
pump
includes
test.
the markup, includes Barry. The only thing we're not sure about is abandonment right now.
Right.
We have to see if that's included. And I will say, from having done one of these recently and putting it all out to bid, I'm trying to remember the well one price in Raymond. I want to say.
I got an after that.
Huh?
I got an after.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at you while I think.
Okay.
Sorry. I think that one was like $120,000, you know, to replace, to do the whole thing and replace the well. So this is not out of line with the cost to replace a well, is what I'm saying. You know, you can maybe get out of the markup with Penta, certainly on the abandonment part, but I don't think you'd want to pull it all out of the contract.
Yeah.
Well, then we have the funding issues, so we'd have to, you know, I suppose, yeah, you still could. I mean, that's something you could consider, because then it would just come out of your local share.
It's just like, you know, what was the cost of Barry to rehabilitate recondition the existing well in the contract that Penta already
I don't
bid
know.
Yeah,
on?
that was at 5,000.
Is that it? $5,000 for credit for well cleaning?
Oh, cleaning part, yeah.
So Penta's realizing an extra $110,000 of
They're
10%
realizing,
of that, you know what I mean?
yeah, well, they're realizing
No.
the markup on that.
No, because Penta would just be Barry Miller was 77,000, and then the markup was 7,700. Okay, because 10%. So, and then you subtract 5,000 off of that, so that's about $80,000 that Penta would see. Then you had Emery and Garrett, which was about 29,000 or so.
Yeah, but I'm saying right now in Penta's contract, all they have is Barry Miller's
Yes.
like $5,000 to rehabilitate the
Well,
existing well, right?
Yeah, then Barry Miller's also putting in the pitless adapter, putting in the well,
Okay.
the new well pumps and pump motors.
So he
It
has
seems
another-
like Penta's making out a lot better on this for not really being involved in it.
Yeah, but I will say, it's not anything that Penta has tried to do or
No, I
actively
know,
done.
I
You
know.
know, the contract
They're
says
just
if you have.
capitalizing on our
Right.
misfortune.
If you have a sub and you do something, the markup is is X, so when they do it, that's what we get, yeah, and they do have to do some, some
Yeah.
pass-through work in order to do it, but
Yeah.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just wanted to make the point that this is not anything that Penta's sort of going, all right, it's,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess what hits me a little bit is, I mean, it's not really a secret that well 4 is 60 years old, and
yeah,
are we gonna see this now in every other well?
Well, it depends on what you had for a screen in the bottom of them.
Yeah, it depends on whether you had Everdur screens, and I'd say, so 7 and 8 are newer and don't have those.
5 does not.
2 does not have that, 5 does not have that, 3, I don't
I don't know, I'll have to look.
I don't know with 3.
I guess what bugs me is that we didn't factor it in the first place.
Yeah,
I mean,
it bugs me too.
Okay.
And,
I'm not.
and I hear you, because something like this happens and you're going like, I don't want to use the term I was going to use because I'm on TV. And when you're working like crazy to try and figure out how you're going to remove PFAS, and you're worrying about all these details, and you got the well, and you go, let's make sure we clean the well, clean and redevelop the well. So we included that, and that's sort of what got us into this, where Barry, the guy who's been working on them for 30 years, goes, you guys ought to replace that well, and it would have been good to know that before, but.
But we were in a little conversation with Barry, but last December, he lost his wife, so he was going, so as we were kind of finalizing all this stuff and talking to him, he was dealing with some personal issues. And
We
I
left
said,
him alone.
I'll be honest with you, we have talked about that collapse screen before, and I didn't ask that question either, so I'm
Yeah.
not looking
No,
at
I
anybody.
didn't either.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all could have been smarter on that one, but I guess what I want to make sure is that we're not seeing this now in every single.
Right.
Everywhere, yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing is, if we're moving that replacement well a couple feet, what does it do to the drawings, to the plans, to
That really is, I don't think that's anything, I think it.
That could be taking a
Field
pipe
change.
and swiveling it, a certain degree, and maybe just moving a pipe slightly in order to accommodate where the new well location is.
But removing the building.
The building is
Gone.
gone.
No,
The
well,
existing
yeah.
building's gone.
Right, but I mean, we had planned to put the building for the new well, actually,
That's the other
No.
one, right?
No, that's just a pitless adapter, it's just a
Yeah.
pipe, the well case just sticking up out of the ground.
So the well's already outside the footprint of the new building, correct?
Yes.
right. No,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, we would have had to build an enclosure over that well either way. No.
No, the enclosure is a pitless adapter, just like in your yard if you have a private well, only it's much bigger. It's-
That's right, we talked about that. Okay.
Yeah, they got rid,
We were thinking of keeping one of the
Right,
buildings.
right, right.
That's
Yes.
what you're probably thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we decided both of them are gone.
Right, exactly, yeah.
The existing, yeah.
yeah, and we've sort of gone that way. Again, we do work a lot with Emery and Garrett, and they say, why do you guys keep putting the wells in buildings? Because it's really hard to get at them and work, and you got to work through the hatch, and then there's water all over the place in the building, and we go, just that's the way it was always done, But it makes sense. So since then, we've been doing all of ours with pitless adapters outside,
Okay.
because that gives the more access, and you still have a vertical turbine pump, which has the efficiency, so, it all makes sense.
Would we want to consider asking Penta if they want to pull that out of their contract? I mean,
Good ask them,
Yeah, all you can do is ask.
I don't want to, upset the progress that's being made on the construction out there, but but that would mean we would have to contract directly with
Barry
Jamie
Miller.
and Barry and
Yeah.
you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is all doable. So let's just ask,
Would that be more administrative cost than it's worth that we're saving? I mean,
Well, you would have to, we're not gonna work through the contractor, and I don't think Emery and Garrett would work through the contractor.
no, the way we were gonna handle this
Okay.
was Emery and Garrett, we were just gonna take them on as a sub to us to do that, so that it would be under the,
oh, so the only markup's on Barry?
yeah, and we don't
Yes.
mark up.
I was
Right.
misunderstanding. I
Yeah.
thought you were
Yeah.
marking up.
No,
Barry, you
no.
guys.
No, we don't mark up,
Yeah.
and we would carry Emery and Garrett, and we don't mark up our subs, so the only markup is on Barry Miller as a sub to Penta.
That's why I'm saying it's 70, that's what it's 7,700, that's the only
Yeah.
markup that you're
That's what it amounts to.
saving,
But we can still ask them and see
yeah.
if you want.
I don't know, do you think it's worth the question, or do you want to just, I think we need to do it.
Mm.
I'm in favor of doing it. I'm
Mhm.
just wondering if we can save $7,000 on it, you know, $7,700 if that's possible, but.
Yep. Yeah, let's ask, and then once we get an answer on that, if they say there's problems or whatever, we don't want to wait till next month, obviously, to make a decision on this. Is that something we can work through?
I would
think
say
so.
so.
Okay. All right, so we'll ask the question, and then see what the answer is, and then see what we have to do.
So, before we do that, do we want to get on board with proceeding with this? Just in general, about replacing that well at all? We haven't really agreed to do that as a commission yet. I mean, I think I want to do it. I don't know if just want to make sure you guys want to do that, because I don't know what other option it is, just to,
I don't think we have much
I don't
choice.
think we have a
I don't want
choice.
to touch that site for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
If Barry can't even rehabilitate the well that's there, we'd just be putting a pump back in the same well, and we'd be right back here in what, a year or two maybe, or less?
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably get done with construction, and then,
Right.
you know, be thinking about whether, you know, you needed to do, it would be sort of a waiting thing that
Right.
has to be done, you know, the
And then it would
timeframe. I
cost
don't
more
know.
later, because then you get more digging and right
And
around
then,
the pipes.
and if it does fail and you start pumping some sand, now are you gonna be damaging your pump?
And
you got that
carbon,
problem too.
and the carbon filters and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it would have some stuff, you know, some
Could be
sediments going in
blinding
there,
some of the
yeah.
carbon media and
Yep.
having to backwash that again to get the sand out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing I would like to see, since we have all the equipment and everything on site, and we already have a site super, you know, well, granted, that's Penta, but I would expect that there should be some savings. We have everything there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Excavators and heavy equipment and
The only
everything.
problem is that most of the work is buried with the drilling rig,
Right.
yeah, so I don't think Penta's really not looking for any extra money, you know, well, at least, I believe I verify that, but, you know, just to, it's, the only thing they would have is a little extra pipe. It might be one, you know, if you move it 20 feet, it's one stick of pipe.
And it's gonna
You know,
cost
that's
$7,700.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, so that would be the only thing, yeah.
All right, so
I just
we'll-
think it's a good gesture, looking out for our customers, trying to save, pinch everywhere we can.
Yeah.
All they can do is say no.
That's right,
Yeah.
they can say no, and then we'll talk to Ron, and we'll see what we do.
Or
And
if they're
then-
willing to lower their markup,
That would be the
you
ideal.
know, whatever,
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
Just keep it simple, yeah.
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 Lower the markup and not be done with it.
Thanks.
So,
Okay.
so if they're, just to review that, so if they're willing to let that fall out, you will hire Barry to do that work by yourself, but we would still be doing a change order for Emery Gear and our work to go ahead with that, so we would do an amendment for that side, and Penta wouldn't have anything, and then we would have to do a contract between the district and Barry to do their work,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you're bringing on Jamie Emery as a sub.
Yeah.
Could you bring on Barry as a sub as well?
I don't think we can because of the contractual nature of what he does. Our insurance would not be compatible with that, so I think he would need to be independent.
Okay.
I'm speaking sort of off the cuff on that. That's my initial impression. I can check on that. If that's possible, then we could see if we could do that, but.
Well, let's remind Penta that they just got awarded the Turkey Hill Booster.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, we should have made that contingent on it.
I don't think, I was told you can't do that.
No.
So,
Yeah, but the touche would be they'd remind you of how much they left on the table for the next bid.
That's true. I don't want to be too forward in this, but
No,
at the
I
same time,
totally understand where you're coming from, and I don't think it hurts to ask the question, like Joe said, and all I can do is say no.
And if they say no, then we're gonna go with them and do the work. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully
Okay.
they're not watching right now.
Yeah.
Just tell them no. Okay. That was it for 4 now, right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
vote? Did you actually vote? No.
I think we should. Right?
So the vote would be to proceed with the new well, essentially? Is that the motion
Right.
you want to make?
Well, actually, we said we're gonna wait until we have the numbers on the table, and then we're gonna go through you guys to make a vote, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think we could still make the motion now and vote now, and it's just a matter of what the final number is.
You can make
Since-
contingent on
Yeah, contingent on.
Penta's
Not
answer
to
and
exceed
numbers.
that number, and if it can be less, if Penta allows it to be less, since we're all here.
And what, if it's part of the project, so, we're probably gonna need to say where the money's coming from and secure those funds for drinking water, groundwater bureau, right, or,
For the trust?
Yeah,
The trust funds? So, yes, I mean, if you take it out of the contract, then the trust fund isn't paying for it. It would have to come out of the local portion that you're paying. And yes, we would, that's just some administrative stuff for us, but we couldn't do that.
didn't they need to know that we, for the overage before, we were covering those funds?
You mean some sort of guarantee that you
Yeah.
are going to cover that? I don't think so in this case, because you already have a local share that
Or am I
covers.
confusing it with 7 and 8 or something? I might be confusing it with one of the other ones, but I thought we had to do,
Because you had to do a letter saying that you have the reserve of
Exactly,
funds
yeah.
available to make up anything that the funding agencies are not providing. Is that what you're, was that on this one?
I don't know. So
Yeah.
let me find out if that's a necessary thing.
I think it was, but
I don't wanna make a $10,000 administrative burden to save $7,700 here, so
Yeah.
no,
if that's what's happening.
This is a
and
question.
it's only on a vote whether,
Yeah.
to say we'll be pulling out of
Okay.
capital reserves. That was the only thing to take care of
And I
that
think
now.
I think we need that, because we need to have the funds as part of the vote.
Well, I
the
think
motion.
if that is true then, so any change order that we do is supposed to be coming out of reserve funds. So then if that is true, that you have to be, giving a letter to DES saying you have the funds, and you have to do that every single time you have a change order.
We
Right?
just did that initially.
Because even if you have a change order, we have some other items in there right
I
now.
thought the contingency would cover it until we get to a certain point, because
But
it was,
your contingency, we don't have correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a dollar value for contingency right now. It's just anything extra will come out of reserves.
actually, I'm pretty sure now that we've split the,
Right.
Is
That,
was the 800 and something thousand.
805, 810.
Yes, over the contingency for this project that we said we would cover out of.
that included, I thought we included, I thought there was zero contingency on that.
I think there is right now. I mean, when we came and we talked about doing the extra money to get us to the point where we could award the contract, there was the talk about, do we also authorize the contingency at that time? And I believe if we looked at the minutes of the meetings, that it would say that gets, we're not gonna do that now. Right now, we're just doing the amount to cover, I think, our costs and the contractor costs. That's my recollection.
So what does that mean?
That just means that if if the job went, without any change orders, which is pretty unusual on a job of this size, then you wouldn't need to do anything. And if you do, then to me, it was really a question of, is at some point, do we authorize X amount of dollars to have a contingency? And then you wouldn't be having to go through a lot of time and effort on each little thing. This is a big thing, admittedly.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, because we didn't want to write a blank check for contingencies.
Exactly.
You're right, that we did
Yeah.
that.
Because we have
So,
a change order right now that we're looking at pulling into a little extra clearing to get into the pit area. And there was a lot more humus underneath the building that we had to take out and bring in, some gravels for that. So we have a couple little things coming in, but they're not, I think those two are adding up to somewhere around, 13, 15,000. But right now, that technically has not been appropriated because we're working with zero contingency. So if that is the case, do we need to come back every time and appropriate the money for that? Or do you want to appropriate X number for a contingency that we have something to be pulling from?
And to your point, that's not a blank check for anybody. That's just an amount that you are saying, this is our contingency.
Right.
That doesn't go to the contractor.
Yeah.
So it might be a good idea just to say, all right, let's say, pass, 5%, whatever number you want to use, and just say,
Can we approve a contingency tonight and say, apply that to
Yes.
Yeah.
this?
This way, yeah, you could do that.
Well, they would have to come from capital reserve anyway, right? Because, I mean, we already know that we're gonna be exceeding whatever grants and monies we get in bonds and,
Because you have a fixed number that you're getting from St. Gobain, you get a
Right.
fixed number you're getting from Groundwater
right,
Trust.
so either way, it's
So
gonna come out of
it-
capital reserve.
Exactly.
Or
yeah.
it's more operating
Because the bid
budget.
was much higher than all of that.
So, when we
I
Yeah.
thought we went, to get that contingency, I thought that's what that 805, I thought we.
Well, there was a contingency.
Well, yeah,
I thought that brought back
Saint-Gobain's
the
agreement.
contingency.
I think that we were looking at that, but I think the prices were higher than anticipated.
There's a contingency in the
Yeah, see,
settlement
we-
agreement amount.
So,
Yeah, but I thought that brought back,
in the monthly budget report that we submit to DES for the Groundwater Trust, we're listing no contingency at all.
I remember what you're saying, but I think that's the function of the way the overall cost, when everything was said and done, that when we got to the point of, this is what it's gonna cost, this is how much is gonna have to come out of capital reserve in order to do it, that's the amount that we went for, and that didn't include contingency. But I know what you're talking about, when the initial 800 that went in, part of that was, the idea was to cover some contingency, but I think costs just continued to climb.
okay.
All right, so what do we want to do?
Well, I still think we need to at least okay for the total.
How about you do this? Why don't you approve the total for that right now and leave it alone, and let me come back to you with some sort of proposal on what you ought to have for a contingency? And then we can deal with that at the next meeting?
Yeah, the only thing is that we,
Is there
on
anything we're
that
gonna-
change order that we have we're working up with the contractor right now, that's some work that, so some of the extra clearing work, we needed to do that. While the clearer was here, we said,
Right.
yeah, do it now instead of having to mobilize them back in again. And we had, that extra humus, well, we had to get it out of there. We're not gonna sit there and wait. So there's a couple things that have been done that we need to do a change order to pay them for. So if we're gonna appropriate some money, I'd like to throw in another 25,000 or something, just to make sure we cover.
So can we do two
Okay.
things? Can we vote for this not to exceed the 115, and then also vote to add a contingency in tonight for 20 grand?
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
I'd go higher. You're not, haven't even got out of the ground yet.
Oh, yeah, no, but I think, and then Mike.
No,
would-
then I can come back to you with a proposal for what the permanent contingency would be. This gets us to next month, so that we cover the stuff that's outstanding right now, as well as the well replacement.
Yeah, okay.
So with
I was just thinking of
interim step.
going to 200,000 and just leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you
There's
could.
gonna be other things that are gonna come up,
Oh, yeah, it will be, yeah.
but that'll get us started.
That'll get you started, and then there'll be a number that you can have some time to think about, and
But we still have an approval process for the change orders in place, right?
yes.
So the contingency is just appropriated money, but it's not ready for grabs, right? I mean,
Right.
No.
What is the approval process for change orders? Who's approving those? You are, or,
Yeah, I am, but
Yeah.
it's first going through Pete
right?
or Underwood, their recommendation, and then I would eventually sign off on it, yes, to go forward. Approve the
Okay.
change.
Okay, so we have somebody on our side of the fence that's gonna say yes or no prior to the work being done.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it.
And DES has to approve it as well.
Right.
So do we want to make one motion and cover the 115 plus a contingency, or you want to split them in half? Split them.
Split 'em.
First of all, you gotta decide you're gonna replace the well with it.
I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we do that, because
Yeah.
then we know it's
Let's
for
do
that
two.
purpose.
Let's do two, yeah. All right, motion to appropriate what, 115, no more than,
Not to exceed
not to exceed
$115,
$115,000 for a well 4 replacement.
and that comes out of what?
Capital
Reserve?
reserve.
Other facilities.
Equipment and Facilities Capital Reserve. Motion made by Wolf,
Second.
second by Joe. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions or oppositions? None? Okay, 400. And if you want a motion on a contingency, what value do we think we want to just give? You said you were up to what, like
15-ish,
15 grand
something like that, yeah.
tree clearing and bringing in some
From the fill, yeah.
structural fill?
Yep.
Do we want to,
And then I know what we did in the infiltration basin, we ended up digging out a little bit more there, so we had a little bit, we had a bid item, for, pulling out some less permeable material in the infiltration basin and putting in some more, because there had some very permeable material up on that slope, you know, going behind well 5 up to the hill. So we ended up pulling out some of that stuff in the infiltration basin and putting that in there, and the volume we used, that was, I forget exactly how much more it was. So that, I
So that would
think,
be just a change order for just the additional digging.
yeah.
So that shouldn't be that much though, right?
I think they bid $25 a yard for it. I think that came out to around, I think I wanna say $4,000, something like that, in that ballpark, 4 or 5 maybe. So yeah, that item.
so if we approve a number for a contingency tonight, if we give you a little bit more room in there, does that allow you more flexibility in approving future change orders without having to have
Yeah,
us
yeah.
approve everything?
Right. But it still goes through him.
Right, so we still got oversight on your part.
Yeah.
So maybe we wanna bump that number up. I don't know how much, but
I don't know either, but you want to start with just 50,000?
I was gonna say that, I wouldn't wanna go, I'm sorry to maybe be constraining that, but we have a lot of eyes on this, and we already have overages, so we have to kind of
Yeah.
keep the reins really short on that,
Yeah.
and.
No, I'm just
I think
suggesting a
50,000 is
number
not right.
that,
That would have been my number too.
Okay.
I know you had said 200, but I think,
well, I think
It's
you
gonna
were
get big in the
including
end
the well
anyway.
rehab too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
yeah, so that'll, hopefully take care of it for a while.
Yeah. I think that sounds.
yeah,
Okay.
right, motion. Motion to set up a contingency over $50,000
Second.
off of the capital reserve, right? Again,
This is gonna be just temporary, or not, contingently come back in
It'll be
with
like interim.
interim, yeah.
Yeah.
So can we cover that out of the fund,
Out of fund balance? or
fund balance for now until and then we can determine where we want it once
Okay.
we
even better.
get a percentage, so we should be good.
Even
No
better.
problem.
Okay. So motion made by Wolf,
Mhm.
Second.
second by Joe. Discussions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed or abstain? None? 400 on that. Okay. Getting there.
Okay,
And then, and it's just something on, sort of on this, the funding portion of it. I know Keith was down here talking with Michelle and Jill about, all the different projects you have and, where, some of the funding's gonna go. So we're gonna create, sort of a spreadsheet on each one of the projects and where the funding's coming from, where you're using your reserves, so we can keep track of that a little bit, just because a lot of things are kind of picking at your reserves, and you wanna just make sure that you're comfortable with that. So we're gonna create, a little spreadsheet for that, and then every month, we're gonna update that with, where we are. I know it, like, so the 7 and 8 project, at least we were looking at doing some interim financing in the sense of, your reserve account would pay for some of the design, And then once you got to construction and you're gonna start spending, you know, the bigger bucks, that's when you get your loan. So then you save on any interest that you're paying
Right.
throughout the
Defer the
design
interest,
process, you
yeah.
know, so then we can start looking at that, and so that's gonna, you know, take your reserve account down. But then once we submit the first disbursement request, you know, for those funds, then all of a sudden you'll get a big chunk of money that will, you know, build back your reserves up. And we can sort of keep, you know, keep tracking that so you can see where everything goes, and then make sure that that jives with your books here and stuff like that, just as a double check as we go along through. Yeah,
that'll be great.
yeah.
And then who's tracking the total cost of each project? Like, we definitely wanna track the wells 4 and 5 costs, cause
Yeah.
we may go back to St. Cobain at some point and they wanna know the total amount. So is
Yeah.
that,
Oh, we're definitely
No.
tracking
Yeah,
that.
well,
Yeah,
that,
we
yeah.
also too.
Yeah.
And we record everything that's going against construction in process for the fixed asset. And then eventually, once it's put into service, it'll have the total cost.
okay,
Yeah. So we're doing that jointly together, and
good.
and we actually just sat down and went over all the disbursement requests that we had, and our stuff kind of jived with their stuff, so it's like, okay, we're good now, but as we're starting to add in some more of these projects,
Yeah,
and we're
we're
starting
gonna
to
have
look at the
3 going,
reserves, and,
4 going at the same
well,
time.
yeah, you could have 4, you know, Turkey Hill and the 3 plants, so it's like, yeah, it's a lot, and
Yeah.
everything's looking at, you know, so you wanna be looking at each individual, but the big picture too.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
What's
That's
next?
1/3 of it.
Well, the well 7 and 8, you know.
That's easy, yeah.
That's, you know, so we went through the 60% design, and now we're proceeding along with that, so that's, you know.
I mean,
Right.
I will say most of the emphasis has been on 2 and 3, because that's what we're working on right now, so, and that's the immediate need, as well as 4 and 5, but
Yeah.
7 and 8 progresses.
Well, yeah,
But we're
progressive, like
continuing
we're
to
working
progress
on
on
that.
design.
Yeah, like that one thing about I remember the infiltration basin was in the shoreline buffer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're trying to work through that issue with DES. We're also looking at possibly putting that infiltration basin on the opposite side of the access road as the infiltration basin. So we're outside of that. So we're actually grading out an infiltration basin there to see if that works. We're gonna buy Ron to say, hey, how do you like this? Is an option type of thing. So we're still continuing with that.
When we talked about the infiltration basin, I thought, do we actually need that basin? Can we utilize the existing basins that we have?
And then you're gonna be mixing, you know, so then if you're PFAS, you know, if you do have anything with that, is that, you know, mixing up with any of your
I don't
iron
think,
and manganese?
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we need to look into that more.
We had talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about
Hanging
that,
up the
because,
iron.
we've talked about, can we use the existing basin? And I have that same question in my mind, about maybe that's something that we can look at. I think we were trying to keep them separate, you know, so that we have, because those were designed for the iron and manganese plant, you know, and now we're adding, you know, something to that, but it's infrequent, you
It's
know.
infrequent, plus I like that here, it's out of the wellhead protection area.
Mhm.
So if there's anything, if there's the arsenic, or any kind of issues like that, it's outside.
Mhm. Let's take a harder look at that, because
But then the arsenic would attach to the,
The iron
Iron,
sludge.
so-
and
That's
they can
okay.
Evacuate that.
that's okay, you're
Yeah.
not putting it back into the ground.
oh, yeah.
That's a good
So,
thing.
so there might be a better,
Yeah, I mean, so far, every argument you're throwing at me, I'm thinking, that's a good reason to put it in the same
so I
basin.
guess
So
the question is the infiltration capacity of that.
That's what I mean, but,
Can it take green sand backwash and at the same time as a carbon?
those are the things that I want to look at, some of the design aspects of that, because they were designed, you know, to be able to take that volume, but there's 2 of them. So
Yeah.
this is redundant, so that you can have one operating while you have the other. So, you know, we may be able to,
It's a good idea. I
Yeah.
mean, it'd be good to, I don't know how much that would save us, but it's gotta be what?
save us something.
15 It's gonna be many thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, no, you had brought that up before, and I think we need to chase that down.
That's good.
Uh,
That's a good thing.
Okay, so that's, anything else on 7 and 8? Any
I don't
questions?
think so.
Okay, 2 and 3, is that you?
Yeah. So you got in the packet some drawings for the first and second level of the the treatment plant, so we actually have another site plan too, so we just, I wanna just go over that. Do you want one for the record? When I got big
You know, it's
bullets.
funny, because I was looking at this the other day, and I was saying, why do we need the big road going around the back over
Yeah.
there?
There we go.
It's been reading my
So
brain.
what I did was,
This is a lot better.
what happened? It didn't come out on this one.
What's the matter?
Oh, I had it on a non-print layer. So yeah, we had a road going around here, yeah. So I had to, we had the existing center line. I told her to leave it on there, and then it got taken off. So what we did was on this, so we now have the actual size of the building of what we have proposed. So it's a little bit of an L shape of a building. And then we were looking at, okay, so how do we get this office in there? And I know we had the office a little bit closer to this side. We were trying to get a parking lot, trying to get the grades to work around, and that didn't seem like it was gonna
Wasn't the
work.
best.
Yeah. So then we said, okay, so how about if we do this? So then we, sort of have, some, sort of majority of the parking on this side that is gonna walk into the bottom where you were talking about having an office space. And then we'd have some parking up over here, for, just customers coming in. And we certainly can extend that down and add a
Yep.
few more. And then, you can make a decision on, are office staff gonna be parking over here during regular hours? Or do you wanna have some additional parking over? We can add a little bit more parking, but what we thought was, yeah, so, we're going, okay, so do we really need that road around, or can we do something different? So we were kind of thinking in the same way as you. So
Yeah.
we would have, sort of the normal route of traffic would kind of be around like this. So when you have like a GAC change out, when you need to get through this door, tanker truck would drive around, this would be downhill and come around. So this bottom area would be about elevation 210. And then this upper area is 224, so it's a 14-foot difference, and that's the floor difference that we have right now. So the tanker truck would pull in there and then pull out, and move up a hill. So we would, have, parking off to the sides, which people can come right in. The other area that we need to get a tanker into is this area here, because the chemical feed rooms are right around here. So we would that way we'd have a tanker truck drive in this way and then back in. I still think might have to do something in here to get a little more pavement. I think we're gonna
On the radius.
yeah, just for the tanker. I want to make sure that there's plenty of room. I don't want the tanker truck to feel like he has to be tight to the building and all of a sudden.
So
One
with
to
that,
build it.
with that, I did have a question. So where the office would potentially be sitting in the future, doesn't it make sense to have a door kind of in that alcove area? Does
Yeah.
it make sense to flip this plan around, have your tanks on this side with your door, mechanical room and your bathroom on this end, and your chem feeds on the other side, so you can almost go around the building and hit your chem feed with the tanker truck on the other side?
Yeah, we need to look at the basement level. So the basement level is the big one that would have to also mirror around. So I think your residual pumps you could certainly do on the back side. The recycle pumps you could, the backwash pumps you could. The high lift pumps, because you would still have to have your, I guess you could still run.
What would be the benefit of flipping that?
Well, for one, you'd have your entrance,
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the
You're not
upper
around the
level, you got
backside of
that
the
double
building.
door sort of facing the front.
and then your trailer, your chemical deliveries could come around the back side. You wouldn't have to be backing in between the building.
So you'd have to back in between the building for the carbon though.
You would still have to, but you would still have to back into here though.
Oh, no, you wouldn't.
You would still have to back into this area here to get your chemical feeds, right? Because if you flip this part of the building around, right?
Yep.
And you flip it around, all of a sudden now your chemical feed, fill ports are gonna be here, right?
Well, I get it.
Right? So then if you did it with a tanker truck, you would have to, because you have the building in your way, it would be tougher to to back in this way, because you would kind of hit, if you hit like this,
I would bring it around fully compliant and then come back.
like this, and then back in.
I would drive around, completely around the building and back in, off
Back-
around the
back in
prison
that.
side. Yeah.
Oh, back in, okay, yeah, the only.
That's the way I would do it.
Yeah, the only problem on that is if we have elevation,
yeah.
210 down there, and we're up at 224 there, this is gonna be a fairly steep hill coming down if we have that flat. Cause we're trying to get the road to curl down around, so you got a flatter area down here when you're parking your tanker trucks for your GAC change out.
So why do you need the parking area that is next to the green sand filters? Which right on that plan would be.
Right here?
closest- Yeah,
That is, so we had said that double door there, so that's actually not to the park, it's just a little bit of a paved area if you need to drive down and just unload something. That might be a little bit wider than what we need. You know, that's just what it was for, just that you have a double door there.
to get access to the door.
Yeah, so if you look at the upper level, if you ever need to bring something in, you got a double door there, you got a double
Yeah.
door here, it was
Yeah.
just sort of a little driveway-ish, I guess, you know.
But if we did flip it,
And I don't believe the green sand comes in on tanker truck, that's usually pallets
Yeah,
dumped in.
right.
Okay.
And then that back door could certainly be used for that, because you'd be right on the back side of the filter, so so that would probably be.
Pallets.
Yeah, it comes in on pallets and it's actually poured and dumped in through the top.
In
So-
bags?
Yeah.
For real?
wow,
Yep.
it must be like a trailer truckloads of pallets.
Yeah, there was quite a few.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like fun at all.
Holy smoke.
Yeah.
But you don't do that. I mean, it's not like GAC where you're changing out the
It's
media.
It should be like 10, 15
15 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be a good area to back into, and then you can unload, and because that door is going right into the back of the vessels that are right along here.
I guess, I mean, at a minimum, we would probably wanna see like an access hallway or something like that here, right?
Yeah, so I agree with that, that would be nice to come out that side at least, with the chem rooms, when you, I got. Yeah, leave those on, and then we'll just.
Seems like the control room should be further in that corner that would be connected to the building, right?
If
To
we,
the-
if we all could, I would like to see it flipped, but I think we.
The flip-flop that one, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the control room, that was, we had the electrical in the corner, because that's always nice because having more exterior walls for the electrical is nice coming up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then we said, when we were looking before, so you gotta look at egress out of the basement. So then the egress, you have a couple different codes in there. And one of them is you have to be 75 feet from the exit. Then there's another one of being 2/3 of the diagonal and, the building. I think, I'm not sure exactly. So we needed a second egress coming out of there, out of the basement. So you need something to get you out of either here or something out of this way. So then when we were looking at that, we said, instead of having electrical there, let's flip-flop these, and then we can use the back side of the office for a stairwell going down. So we thought that was, sort of beneficial. And the chemicals would be, on this end, because underneath here are the high lift pumps, so you're gonna be discharging into, your chlorine, your caustic on your discharge. But granted, there would also be lines running into the feeds into the pre-treatment for the iron and manganese too.
So, but you would actually have an open stairwell that leads
Now,
to.
there would probably be a wall there. It showed an open stairwell, but we'd probably put a wall on the along the office and a door there.
Okay,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're gonna hear all the pump noises from downstairs,
would,
and
yeah.
you're gonna have the cold
Yeah.
creeping up in winter, and
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would also be just better of having a wall there just for, hanging things, a bookshelf, whatever you need to do. It's another wall space to put things, so, yeah.
Just seems awkward. I would have thought that the steps would be clearing into like
In a
a
hallway or something.
hallway, not into a room.
Yeah, so, so that is,
Look at this page,
Yeah.
right, where that lines up, the tanks over here and all
Yeah.
that, right?
yeah, so we're trying to look at the tankage and trying to keep the tankage as big as possible, but also get people the access out. So, so we have a door at the top of that to go immediately outside, and the reason for that is to, again, to shorten the distance, because if we did not have this door, they would have to go through the office and come out, so that would be a longer run, and it affects it. So we, I'm not sure how often that door would be used,
So
especially if you had
get out of the
a,
building in an
and
emergency.
especially if you had another one there, because you had a wall, I'm not sure, but.
So if you flip the building, would that mess up any of the piping, like the well 3 line would be coming in? Well 2 and 3 would be coming in.
Yeah, so so then we do have that coming in the back of the building, so if we flip that around,
You'd have to run a line
Yeah.
all the way across.
or we run across, or. Yeah. So then we were, again, so we were thinking like an addition, so we were thinking like, okay, if we needed to do resin, we would probably be looking to put resin up this
On
way,
that side.
right? If we were doing, any more treatment for iron and manganese, it would be going this way. So if we flip-flopped it around, it would be going that way towards your office compared, or your potential office space, which would tighten up that area. So if that's what you wanted, we certainly could move the whole facility back. So if you did extend that way, there's room between there and your office.
So we couldn't create like a hallway or something with a staircase here where the chlorine room is, right? Because of the piping underneath.
Yeah, right, because, that would be, you can see downstairs with the piping we have in the lower level,
Right.
there's really not much room there, And that's why, to begin with, this building's bigger than what we noted on the evaluation report. And so we knew that, so we really wanted to look at how tight can we get this, but we also wanted to say, let's put the realistic size of our components in there. So we went a little bit further and, making sure we knew what pumps we had, what size the pump pads were, pipe lengths, for, before and after flow meters and all that kind of stuff, so we could kind of get things laid out. And you can see that there's not a lot of, sort of wasted space in here. So in the lower level, you got these double doors here, and that's to that driveway coming along the side. So there's sort of be a main corridor coming down in between these two pairs of vessels. And then if you need to carry anything back, the main path would be around like this. So then when you're looking at that and you're looking at egress and all that kind of stuff, that's why you really needed this one here. You have these two filters are sort of back to back. So you have face piping here, and then you have face piping here. So as you're coming up, in between the vessels, you kind of, if you were sort of two backs to each other, you have a little bit more room to do some piping back there. So the Evoqua layout actually works better than the Calgon, where they had the pipe rack in between. So if you had the pipe rack in between, you would have a lot less piping area in between here to get distances for flow meters and that type of thing. So that actually works out a little bit better.
If we were to leave the staircase where it is,
Yeah.
but move the electrical room and the control room where the chlorine room is. I think what I'm hearing from Ron is
Yeah.
he doesn't want to have to run over the parking lot to get into and out of the building. Because right now, there's really no good access from the south, right? Well, I don't know actually where it is south,
Yeah, so if you were coming from the office,
southeast.
if you were coming from the office into the building, you would either enter in that door that's right by the stairs, or you would go to this door here,
Right,
you know, in sort of middle of that building. So actually, yeah, north is actually, yeah, that way, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So you're saying if you flip the electrical and control room with the chlorine and caustic room?
right, but leave the staircase where it is.
you could, because you couldn't really leave the staircase when it is, because the caustic and chlorine room
Has to
need,
be against
so
the
that,
wall.
and those are depressed areas, so those are gonna be down. Each one of these is, so you have a little pad here where the eye wash showers, and you go down some stairs down into this. So these two rooms are sunken down,
'Cause those are
and then this
containment, right?
wall is the same wall on top of the clear well down below. So, you know, so for construction purposes, it's a lot easier having that drop right at a wall. We did have something different where it was similar to what you said, so you'll have, if you try to have it,
So when I'm saying flip everything around, I'm also talking about the clear well and recycle basin as well.
right, yeah, flip, yeah, so we would have to, so we flip everything around. We would run, yeah, we could run the pipes. I think, you know, I could certainly look at that. What I'm envisioning right now is if we did that, if we flip this thing around, we would almost want to slide this thing so the L is shaped more like this now. Then discharging of the high lift pumps would be the one that I would be wrestling with, you know. And if I guess if worst came to worst, that could come out the back of the building and then sort of, you know, go down around the south side and come out.
Well, I think we want to, you know, we certainly want you to be happy with the structure.
Yeah.
And want Ron to be happy with the structure, so let's, you know,
Yeah.
let's, you know, if it's just onion skin stuff to start,
Oh, yeah.
or, you know,
Yeah, we could do, yeah, so the only, I guess, so I think that could probably work. So if the only problem, and again, it's not that big of an issue, but if I'm trying to deliver chemicals to here, I'm gonna probably need to have a road coming up and then have them sort of a drive out here, so then they could back in like this. You know what I mean? I think that's what you would need to get in there, because I don't think you could go like this and back in. I'd be too afraid that corner would get, you know, nipped, and it would be tough. So we could certainly do that, and it would just be a little bit more pavement to get them out there. And maybe it doesn't have to be straight out, maybe it's a slight angle like this, so then they can just, you know, maneuver in and
Almost
come,
like
you
you'd want a
know.
flat area to drive out over by your retention ponds anyways, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
So maybe you can have an access road going out to the infiltration
Yeah.
basins, and that doubles as a,
yeah, and I was also looking at these, and that's the last thing I was thinking about, but I never made the change, is taking these actually and rotating them this way, because we have this pipe running out to here, and we have a pipe running out, if you just twist it, this pipe would run straight into this one, and that pipe would run straight into those two.
Yeah.
So you can actually kind of twist those, and it might
so
work a
what's the
little bit
big
better.
one for,
So the big one was the, you know,
Carbon?
so that was the carbon one,
And then the
you know,
other
and
two
then
are
we
the
have, yeah, so then if
alternating
we're
rates,
talking about like what Ron was talking about, can we combine them? You know, do we have two, you know, larger ones, or maybe even three equal sized ones or something like that? We could look at that.
okay.
the other thing too is I see the angle parking over here.
Yep,
Is it possible that, I mean, I'm guessing you're doing that because you're going down this depression to
so
the
that's,
south?
so I noted on there that, this fill this low area, so this low area, this is, and it's spelled out in the report a little bit, but that 200 elevation is gonna be raised up to somewhere around 210, okay?
Oh, wow.
So that whole thing is gonna be filled in with some of the excavation that you're gonna be pulling out of the building. But we will create a small little detention basin over there
Stormwater?
for stormwater coming off the building to go down into that. And we'd also have, sort of a floor drain inside the building that would go down into that. So we'd have a small depression there, but this would be, south side of the parking would be sort of a flat area.
And how does that relate to angle parking?
Oh, no, I think he was just talking about you're going down,
Yeah.
you're just going down the grade.
Okay.
I think he
Well,
was,
no, I thought you were trying to squeeze the driveway
yeah.
by putting angled parking.
No, I just looking at angle parking in the sense that, people would come this way, park, and then they would leave that way. So we can certainly do
I'm thinking if
straight
you
in.
slide everything over to the north
Yeah,
and then just make pull-in parking, you're only maybe having to add, like 8 feet or 10 feet?
I could still leave it here and put straight in parking, because this is gonna be all the same grade.
Yeah, but isn't
Right.
that, wouldn't you need to have that wider because of
Oh,
the
you-
straight-in parking?
Your alley,
Yeah,
the alley is actually wider than what we need for diagonal parking.
I just think people might come in that way too.
They could come in that way, yeah, so
And
if
then they
you,
wouldn't be
if
able to park
we
easily.
certainly could do straight in parking to, I didn't know if you wanted to have, like a little sign there says one way, and you kinda just direct people. So normal people would probably come this way, so if you said, come, because usually you would come here and then leave,
Yeah,
right?
But
And the
both
only
of those
people would be
avenues
here
are-
would be just for the meetings and stuff, but.
yeah. I don't know,
So we can
think
certainly
I-
make straight in parking certainly
you
gives you the
guys think
flexibility
care
to.
of, But I would prefer to just have straight-in parking.
Yeah.
I think in the winter, when it's snowing out, people aren't even gonna know it's angled parking, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
And
gonna
you'll
ever
lose-
be that many people there anyway, but
Yeah.
maybe in the
Unless we have a billing issue.
parking lot was probably
Take a
full
note.
today, huh?
There was a line.
Out the door.
I wasn't taking a lot of
Okay,
notes, but yeah, I am on that, because,
Yeah.
I mean, the flipping the building, I
Yeah.
started to go, okay, maybe I should write this down, but I think,
my-
I think we have that.
Yeah.
So, Pete, you were talking about if we flip the building and then we would want future expansion. It looks like you could still bump it out away from,
Yeah.
so then you'd actually be adding green, carbon
Yeah,
tanks on
so-
this side?
Yeah, because I was looking at, so. So if you look at this one here, so the discharge pipe would be coming out of here, so there's a header underneath the floor here that's gonna take the effluent from your GAC filters, okay? Then it would come up over a pipe weir, so this pipe has to go up above the tanks, over and down to prevent draining of that, because that's going directly into a clear
Oh,
well.
yeah, siphon.
So what we were gonna do here at this point was on this, riser, we were gonna have a pipe coming up, going over down into the floor and coming out for future GAC, then another line coming over, up, and tying in for the return of the GAC, and then there would be a valve in it. So on this vertical pipe, there would be 2 T's and a valve in between, so you could come out to resin, come back from resin.
You were saying GAC. but
Oh,
we're
sorry,
talking
resin,
Okay,
yeah.
You had me confused, sorry.
Future resin.
Yeah, future resin, yeah, so we would have those pipes aren't shown in there, so if you did flip-flop it, I guess we could still, see this comes from the floor, up through the floor and goes up, over, comes down, then this runs along the ceiling, and then discharges into the clear well, above the, normal water level.
So would you still be able to go under the floor over there?
Yeah, so if you flip-flopped it, you would wanna be, yeah, you could still do that, I think. I'd have to probably close off a little bit of the wall, yeah. We could certainly look at that, because we can possibly, no, I can't move that. Yeah, I could look at that, we could probably come up with something that would work.
I like the
Yeah.
site layout better.
Yeah, yeah, I do too, yeah.
A lot, yeah. And I think we actually talked about that during the last meeting, or
Yeah.
2 meetings ago.
Yeah,
That's-
Is there a reason you put the office so close to the building?
I was just thinking I could probably pull it a little
Yeah, and
closer.
that's,
Pull
we
it all the
certainly,
way down to the entrance.
yeah, and we certainly could do that,
And
yeah,
there's parking all the way around.
yeah.
Actually, yeah, then you can park like,
Park
This,
between the
right?
buildings.
you could put the parking stalls kinda like this, the building can be like,
Closer.
Yeah, the only thing is if you, you certainly could do that and have parking in between there. You just gotta give them whoever's parking on this spot, you gotta give them a means to back up this way, to get the back of their car that way so they can drive out.
Compact cars only.
Yeah, so, they just gotta make sure it's far enough away from the building so
I mean,
nobody
if
doesn't
you-
back into your building.
plus if you come,
If you put the same size building
Yep,
about 10 feet from this driveway, and you've got all this space up to the wall here.
yep,
You got parking all the way over here, you can make this all parking in here.
yeah, but you got a grade change.
yeah, that's what we had before, and then there's a grade issue coming from, so I don't think, you could possibly do parking there with a little bit of a wall, that you had a little bit of retaining wall, you certainly could do it that way. I did show a little retaining wall right there, because we need to have this grade, at least on this,
Oh, yeah.
based on this layout, we need to have this grade right here for the
Yeah.
tanker truck at, 224,
At the
and then we get a
floor.
210 down here, so then we would need to have, I don't know exactly what it would be, I just showed a line that said retaining wall, I don't know how it would, we can hit
Right.
that with final design, but
I mean, is
we
the,
need
is
something
the
there.
office space, it's not written in stone yet, right?
It's not,
No.
it is
It
roughly,
could go anywhere.
It could.
yes, yeah, and the size of it is roughly twice what you have here.
Yeah.
And that was sort of somewhat of the goal-ish.
You could put
you
it
know.
anywhere if you get enough level land, keep it all on one level.
Yeah, you could, yeah. And so what we were, some of the thought was like here, you at least you have something in front. Do you want to put a sign, some trees or whatever? I don't know, something
I think
for
it should be
beauty.
made convenient for the people who come to the meetings.
Yeah, and that,
That's the
Yeah.
first thing they're gonna come around this corner and see.
yeah. So from here, so then one of the reasons why I had it slid down this way a little bit further is this road here goes up to tie in up here.
Okay.
So then the further you have it slid up, the more people are parking on the sides and walking up into the building and stuff. So we have to play with the grades to see how that,
Is it better on this side of the road?
it certainly could be over
It's all level?
here.
It's 214.
Well, we had given you direction before about having a two-story future office so that we can have like a larger conference meeting room in the basement and stuff. And then have more staff on the
Right.
first level.
Yeah,
So that way, that same square feet is being stacked instead of spread out.
that's exactly what this is here too,
Right.
yeah, right.
And then for having 2 floors to have handicap access,
Right.
you could actually have access at ground level on both floors.
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of putting it here, because this one has that, the access at a lower level
Yeah.
here, a higher level here, we're kind of looking at doing roughly the same thing for that. That's why I kind of had it there. If we plopped it over here in a flat area, then it would be harder to gain access to a lower level without an elevator or something.
So if we moved the location and only had it 1 floor, it would be twice as big as the
Right, so
box
big,
that you're
yes,
seeing there.
exactly,
obviously,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you certainly could do that,
But,
yeah.
Make it easier.
I mean, I don't think we need to, I think we need to kind of lay out what we want in the future now to make the rest of the site work, but we can always change that in the future. It's not
Yes,
locking us in.
so you have an area here you can build, you have an area here to build, and you have an area here you can build, so you have,
But the way that
Well-
affects the grade of the road that goes around, that's gonna stay, because that's not gonna change later, you know?
this will probably be
Right.
the same, yes.
So that's why I'm saying we
Yeah.
need to kind of come up with an idea that we think works well enough so we can establish the grades of the road all around the facility.
Yeah,
And then if we elect to do something different with the office in the future,
yeah,
we can do that.
right,
So I kind of like this layout. I think the office can come a little further closer to continental,
Yeah,
but probably can't come much. I don't think it can go all the way closer to the driveway, because then the lower elevation's not gonna be compatible. You're gonna have a short distance with a 10-foot grade
right,
change.
exactly, yeah, right.
So probably is like in the middle of what we're talking about.
So what I said here was, you know, so this is 210 elevation you walk into, and this is 224. So I had this one at 213, so it's 3 feet higher, so you're starting to go up the hill a little bit. And then this one is 230, oh, that should be 223, so a foot lower than this, you know, coming along that way. So it, because this one doesn't, this is 14-foot elevation difference between floors. You don't need that here,
Right.
you know? So I was trying to take a little bit of both to try to set, you know, say, okay, you're coming up the road, you know, that's gonna be, as you're rising up, let's pull that floor up a little bit. And then this one's gonna be diving down a little bit, and we can drop that down too, so. That was at least the thought of, you know, going in. And there's certainly a lot of different ways you can.
So again, the main reason to flip the building is to get better access from the front?
I just think it would be, yeah, it looks, it's more inviting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you could also change this corner door here and just have it over here, but it's still in the far.
Where's this?
I'm just saying, instead of having it come out that wall, you could
Yeah.
probably have the door come out.
Oh, right there,
this
right at
wall.
that corner, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But you're still kind of walking to the corner of the building to get in.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of being able to walk through that door. You kind of walk, you're walking in, you're coming into, and you're seeing the tanks, right? It's, you know you're in the,
This door here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just like that.
And so you would see, so that would, you would see sort of the back of the tank, where that would be the back corner. But you'd still be seeing the tanks.
Yeah.
But it would be, you wouldn't be seeing the, so you walk in this door, sorry.
No, I know, the one on the side, you
Yeah,
have
you,
the whole view.
then you walk in this one, and then you're gonna see all the face piping. You know, that's the one you're gonna, but then if you flip it, you're still gonna walk in that side door, it's still
Yeah,
gonna be,
so it
that's,
won't
the
affect
door's
that.
gonna be there no matter what.
Right.
And you walk into it and you see the face piping, you know,
Face
so.
piping would just be here.
It would just, exactly, yeah, yeah. If you flip-flopped it around, you know, your toilet is gonna be on that side where we have the sewer going out, so that would help that, you know, that's not a major thing, but it's on that side.
A plus.
A plus, yeah,
And the only other comment I do have,
yeah.
is there any way you put the hatch access,
Oh, yeah, we can move those. Which one don't you like?
the one that's right in the middle of the hall?
Okay,
So whichever way the building.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
It just seems like it's gonna be a trip hazard down.
Okay.
Because that's gonna stick up about a foot, right?
yeah, so that's roughly what you have in 7 and 8.
I know.
And if you don't like that, we can certainly move it. So if you look
Covered
at,
now with the table on top of it, because there's gonna be trips in.
yeah, so if you look at,
Put it in the back by the
That's what I
recycle
was thinking.
basin.
so then you have to, so you gotta look at the Clearwell area. So we have that tucked into the corner there. So then, so anywhere if you wanna get that whole wall, it's gonna be the same thing as a trip hazard. Then you have your tanks here, so then the other idea is to put it in the back. But then if you're, depending on if you're running a, you know, any kind of a lift back there or something like that, now you have that to contend with.
Running a lift, where would that be?
Back along here.
Oh,
But again, we could, you know, so you
So if you move that door here,
Make it higher,
if you move that door back here a little bit over
so you don't trip over it, you walk into it.
and put the hatch in the corner.
you wouldn't be in
get
it.
a bruise.
You wouldn't be in it. So see this pipe here?
Yeah,
Get
okay.
in this
Wolf,
Clearwell.
see this pipe
Yeah,
here,
yeah, okay.
going down to the floor?
Yeah.
You can see that one,
Yeah, I see.
right over there, that circular one, that one right next to the wall. So anywhere from here over, this pipe here, Wolf, that one in the back, anywhere from here over, you're not in the clear well,
Yeah, I
it has to be on that side of it. So it's either, you know, it's either behind the filters or along that wall.
Sounds like behind the filters would be a more preferred
That's what
option.
I'm thinking. And right in the corner again, so we keep it close to the other, you know, as close as you can be to the other hatch.
what's this one?
It would pretty much be right,
Yeah.
you know, right across from there, yeah.
What's that?
That's the hatch for the recycle tank.
Kind of be like right here, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
Kind of that.
yeah.
Yep.
general.
Do you have like Dickens cartoons?
And that's gotta have like a reveal on it because it's a clear well, so you
Yes.
can't have liquid seeping.
Right.
Right, so you can't have that floor level.
What is it, about
Staking
6
up
inch
around
curb
it.
type of thing?
Usual 6 to 8 inch curve.
Yeah. So the only, I guess, issue on that is, so if you do have to get back there with any kind of staging to set up, to put in any more, change out your green sand, that, that's how I was looking at leaving that aisle open.
open.
So if you did put it there, those three are gonna be accessible, and this one would just be a little bit tougher to
It's
deal
something you
with.
gotta work around.
Yeah, you would have to work around it, right? Yeah. Then we also gave you the last sheet, you can see is a building cross-section. Alright, so we just tried to go through the chem rooms, so you can see that the chem rooms are a little bit lower, they're sunken down a little bit with the tanks in there,
Oh, yeah.
right? So you can see that, and you can see that piping that's just below the chem tanks, and that's the one where I was talking about running, into the clear well, running up along the ceiling. Then there's also, so there's a 12-inch treated water line going to your clear well, but also you have a 6-inch clear well fill line. And that clear well fill line is, so you're gonna be pumping out of your clear well for backwashing. And so you have a, finite volume in your clear well. If you need more than this line, you can manually open it up and pull back from your distribution system, fill your clear well, and then, then you're, because if you get too low, you start sucking air into your pumps and all that kind of stuff. And so that will be operated manually by the operators. And so that's running along the ceiling too. So that gives you a rough idea of what it looks like, in cross-section, so.
So, as far as timing, do you want to take a look at flipping this building over?
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say go too far as to do all the cross sections again, maybe
Yeah.
just do the plan view and.
Can we set up another workshop to talk about, do some preliminary stuff and then sit down and go over this in something other than a commissioners meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That'd be nice.
So why don't we plan on progressing that, to the point where, although this is what's gonna be in the preliminary design report.
Yeah, so that was sort of the question is, so we were planning on submitting the preliminary design report, Thursday, Friday this week.
Oh, yeah.
So then, but it's gonna be a draft, so that, for your comments. We certainly could provide it with these drawings, and then you could be commenting, and in the meantime, we could be flipping it around and then having a work session and, looking at possible different options to either, the site plan or the, building layout and do all that kind of stuff. And we can finalize it when we finalize the report, that's, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You wanna do that?
I guess, I was gonna say maybe we
We could,
figure out the floor plan before the.
because schedule has been, beat on the schedule.
I don't wanna delay that.
Yeah, so,
And we lost, I don't know if you heard, we lost our server for,
I did, yeah,
oh,
you-
jeez, did that kill us?
Yeah, so, we were on track to have this to you last Friday.
Yeah.
And then we lost our server for pretty much a week, where we couldn't access our files. So that pushed us back roughly about a week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting for those of us who worked before we had computers, and used to come in and do this stuff, and now you walk in and everybody's wandering around, they're dead in the water, without a computer, so. Taking out the garbage. Literally, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you still have ink on your fingers?
I have some soot from my wood stove, but yeah. The other thing that and we've been talking a lot about this, is the size of the building. Pete mentioned this, and the building's bigger than it was, and that equates to cost, and we've talked about that. So, I keep beating on Pete, make it smaller, make it smaller, make it smaller. But then I look at Ron, and Pete's looking at Ron saying, do you want to be able to have to turn sideways to walk between the wall and those tanks, So you were, some of us were at Hoosick, that was pretty crammed in there. And we've been to a couple of facilities like that. So we're erring on the side of giving you what we feel is adequate space. But I just want the board to be looking at that, saying, there's a cost to that, and we understand that, so it's, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there, that the building is
And
bigger.
that's why we
and
want to
costs
show
more.
some of this piping so you can actually sort of see the work areas that they're gonna be around, instead of just saying, oh, the high lift pumps will be in this area, the backwash pumps will be in this area, then you don't, and it's like, wow, that's a lot of extra space,
Yeah,
so.
the danger of going to a warrant article on a feasibility study level, evaluation, that's one of the issues, It's just, then when you get
Yeah.
into all the details, and the devils are in the details, you go, it needs to be bigger in order to accommodate everything.
Yeah.
Let's do it once and do it right.
Yeah, that's what we are, looking at this and saying, okay, so if you get, if you do this, we do the cost estimate, then it's gonna be like, okay, so then it's, you're gonna probably, but I think everybody was expecting this to be a little bit more because we added in vessels and all this kind of stuff, so that, but, we come up with a number that's like of this size, and then we can say, do you like it, or or not?
That's why I want to make sure everybody's happy with what we have laid out, and understand what the costs are. So we're going to go back. So
I would say
how
go
do we-
ahead and wrap up the preliminary report with what
Yeah.
we got, and then
Yeah.
we're almost like already commenting on the preliminary report then.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
what's gonna be in there, so we're
Yeah.
ahead of it, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because otherwise, we would just have more comments, and so you might as well just finish the report with what you got.
yeah.
It would be draft anyways, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the report is pretty much done and sitting in my inbox, ready for me to review, I think.
Yeah,
Okay. At least that way we can stay on track and whatnot.
right, yeah.
Okay.
So is that
Okay.
it for the treatment plant?
And so one other thing on size wise, so if, when you're taking a look at these, take a look at the drawings for 4 and 5, and then actually go out and take a look at the filter room of 4 and 5. It doesn't look too big, does it?
No.
If you go look at it and go, wow, that's the filter room,
Huh.
and then you're gonna then you envision all the other piping. So to take a look at that as you're kind of looking at things, there's not gonna be excess room, There's gonna be room to work, but, so. It's the same thing when you do your house. You put the foundation and you go, oh my gosh, look at that thing. That's enough for a bedroom.
So we have one more thing on wells 2 and 3,
Yeah.
which is we're in preliminary design now. We're not under final design. That's the next step. But in final design, we were going to do the survey of the raw water main.
Yeah.
And that's going to be happening in the winter. So we're thinking, we've put together an amendment, and we have a price from Fieldstone to do that survey now or soon. Literally, we just, we've been bugging him for the price. He finally got it to us today. So we have an amendment to add this to the preliminary design contract so that we can authorize a survey to get that going and not wait till we get through the preliminary design and critiquing that and so forth, and
So
getting
is
to a
this-
final design
Is this,
contract.
the survey, is this along a particular corridor that we were looking at before across the
Yeah,
atrium? Where does all that stand? Because at the last meeting, we were supposed to reach out to Atrium.
I did talk to Atrium,
Yeah, do we have a
and
route that we?
he says he's amenable for that. So I have 3 copies of this, so you guys can just kind
Yeah,
of
we
look
can
at.
look on here.
Look at the routing of it. So we would be coming up, so if you're looking at the drawing,
Where are we here?
on the left-hand side is well 2.
Treatment plant.
So you got well 2 over here, right? So we'd be coming up along the sort of the woods road there, and then we would do directional drill in red, coming over just about the where well number 1 is. right? Coming up to well number 1. Then you would be working up through the MVD yard up to Continental Boulevard. Then you'd be coming down the edge of Continental Boulevard on, as open trench again. And then directional drilling down in front of Atrium. And when I was talking to, I think it's Kevin Anderson, I think his name. He wanted, he didn't want to dig up his driveway. So so it's like, okay, so let's start the directional drill before his driveway. We can carry that to Greens Pond Road, head down Greens Pond Road just a little bit, and then cut back across. And the reason for that is I wanted to sort of get behind this parcel of land onto the other one. So if you do build a new office, you want to sell this, there's not a pipe going through it. So I wanted to sort of carry this back far enough that you could do that, and then we'd be running through the woods, to the new treatment facility.
I thought we were talking about coming through somewhere, I don't know, in here or something.
Oh, going through his property?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
I
we
think
weren't gonna
that-
go along Continental. I thought we were thinking of
But we're
doing
gonna be, that would be along,
Be a
an
longer
easement along their property,
something.
but
Yeah.
along Continental.
So where would this be? This would be in that kind of ridge?
Yeah, it would be for, you got Continental, you got the telephone pole, and then there would be the water line. Cause those telephone poles are roughly the property line going down through there, yeah. So then you would be set back off
So you'd have
of
to-
that.
Set up a pit here and here and then,
Yep. Actually, you don't even set a pit, they just start drilling into the ground. You would probably have to set one up over here because when you come back up, yeah. So that would be the route, so they would be surveying that route right there.
and you think directional drilling costs is it more expensive than open trench? I mean, it probably would be here
So,
because
yeah,
you'd have
so-
like
so we-
traffic.
So we
impacts,
have,
right?
we have to get them out here to do this, the wetlands crossing, so you're already, mobilizing the equipment out there. So going up along there, that's all wooded, it's hills and stuff like that, so, and you'd be sort of cutting out their buffer, I think that they would be a little more amenable to
Oh, yeah.
having that down below.
Would that potentially be a lot less interference with traffic
Oh,
as
yeah.
well, right?
Yeah, because you would be right off the road, so when you're doing that, you would have to have, so when you have your directional drilling, so you send a pilot out, and that drills through, it's about a 4-inch hole. So you run that out to wherever you want, and then that comes up out of the ground, and then you attach it to a reamer, which is, conical shaped, that reams out, and then attach that is your pipe. Okay, then there's a swivel on there, so, the pipe doesn't twist as you're going. But as that goes, your reamer will go through and start cutting, and then along your drill steel, they'll be pushing out drill muds that is gonna,
So they
mix up
push
with the
they push
soils and then
soil
push,
forward.
and it pushes it back out into the pit area here. So as you're reaming, all the shavings are kind of coming out the back, and then they're pumping those out with a vac truck. So you'll have a piece of equipment here and a piece of equipment there, on either end of that, working.
Yeah.
So as you're doing that, so for a time, Greens Pond Road will probably have to be shut down because you would have the pipe laid out in front of your office at Dunkin' Donuts. And it wouldn't have to be this whole length, it could be, maybe like a third of it. They could have 3 sections of it, so they could pull one section,
Then fuse it
and
together.
then stop, fuse it up, pull the next section, fuse it up, pull the next section. But there might be some time where Greens Pond Road is, shut down. Now would have to be negotiations with the town and all that kind of stuff. And if they needed it open at night, you could always excavate like a 2-foot, deep ditch, put the pipe in there overnight, put a little gravel, and the next day dig it back up again and start pulling it back out. So there's a few ways you can do that, but that's some of the finer details of it.
So where's their land? Does that go all the way to this corner?
I'm not sure exactly where, do you know where their ends along this way? There's a ball field
I
right
think
there.
they're all the way over here.
They're right over to you.
And I think the old,
Because here's the old road right
Power
there.
lines. They don't know the power lines.
I'm just wondering if we
Sure, I
could,
think
this
they
is the
do.
old Great
They all
Pond
like
Road
that,
right
yeah.
here,
Yeah.
came across and
Yeah.
coming
No,
out,
you're right.
oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, so if you, so that's that little road, that little, looks like that's the old Green Pond Road.
Would it be, like, I'm just wondering if we wanna pull this over away from the road? Right now, would there be impacts on the shoulder of
Oh,
Continental?
no,
just in here?
that would be, yeah.
It's
we-
far enough
yeah,
off?
Yeah, it would be
It's
far
just
enough.
hard to see at this scale.
Yeah, so those telephone poles are, whatever, say 15 feet, away from the edge of pavement, and then we'd be another 10 beyond that, so we'd be 20 feet
I'm
off.
giving you the property line.
It's okay with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Not anymore.
That's
our copy.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, yeah, so we are looking to, to amend the contract so we can get that done. Because that's sort of the one sort of weather dependent
So,
item.
what is the amount that you're looking on?
I think that's what you were just looking,
I
yeah,
get it.
Yeah, it's like a
I thought it
13,000.
was just a map.
yeah.
Yeah, 13,000 for that, yeah.
All right, so,
Do we need that tonight?
It would be good,
well.
because
Jill's nodding. When Jill nods, I go, okay, yeah. we need
because,
that.
because they said they're not gonna put it on their schedule until.
That's approved.
They've been very, I had some other stuff done by them, and it took them a long time to get it done, so I know
Yeah.
they're very busy as
Yeah.
well, so.
Yeah, we've been hammering to get the price, and we'll have it to you at the end of the week. We'll have it to you noon. We'll have it to you, so it's been one of those. Which we understand. I mean, we're busy too, so.
so it's talking about a $13,000 field surveying amendment. Anybody have any questions about that at all?
Okay.
That's what we're talking about. You see the numbers in front of you? This here. So was their field survey already done of a different layout? That's why this is needed, or?
No, the only survey we had them do was the site, the pump, treatment plant site. That was the only thing, because we didn't know exactly what route we were gonna be going along. So then when.
So we didn't carry any other survey numbers in your proposal?
No, because, then we figured we were gonna do that during final design, once we picked the route to go.
All right, so this would have been in.
This would have been in final design.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the whole point. We
So
would
we're
have.
just paying now instead of later?
Right,
Exactly,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear.
No,
That's-
I wasn't, I was thinking this is an additional service.
No, this is something that wasn't included in preliminary design,
Okay,
would have
so
been
we're getting a
included in
jump on
final
the final.
design.
Yeah, because if we waited to final design, also we would be given the notice to start in mid-January, and then,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and then it'll be like, okay, so
All right.
we can't really do anything,
I
so.
think I'm following you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry that didn't make that clear. We're just trying to push that up.
Yeah.
We're trying to advance the schedule,
Yeah, okay. Now you're singing the tune.
drinking the Kool-Aid.
All right,
I make a motion that we amend ESR 45, test 2, preliminary design, $13,000.
Second?
motion made by Joe, second by Wolf. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, abstains? Nobody? 400 to proceed with that. Great. Do you need some extra copies, guys?
They're gonna be signed.
Got some clean.
Do you know all three signed?
Yeah, then I'll get Keith to sign them and then, yeah.
I think that's all we had, unless
Yeah.
you
Do you have
gentlemen.
more?
What?
Do you guys,
Oh, you got more.
yeah, do we wanna
Go back to this
offer,
one?
yeah, have you guys had a chance to take a look at it? This was, repurposing the $10,000 from ESR 42 to 45.
Right.
And if you wanted to make a motion, then Ron would sign this one too.
Right. Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it.
somebody want to take a crack at a motion on this one?
It's Wolf's turn.
You're quiet over there.
Yeah.
I see
He's the native speaker, he should be doing it. All right, that was, okay, let me see if I can wait that one.
So do you want me to give you some language? It would be, the motion would be to
Go ahead.
would be to repurpose money from the temporary chem feed improvements at well 7 and use that money for the peer review by UNH.
I was just about to say that.
Okay,
Do we need a more specific than money?
10,000.
It's
Oh,
on
yeah,
here.
proposed
It's on
change
here,
right over
it's
here.
on here. Yeah, it's the preface
Okay.
here, yeah. So moved? Seconded.
He predicted that.
Second and, motion made by Wolf, second by Ken. Any other discussion, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any oppositions or abstentions?
Amanda,
Seeing
do you
none.
want a copy of that?
Sure.
4-0-0.
Do you need it? Or do you need it?
We have the copy here, the Ron just signed it, and that went.
Yeah, no, that's just my copy, and I have another one at the office, so she,
We can leave that one, we have this one signed,
okay.
yeah. So.
And we got one
Oh,
more.
this is,
Yeah, right.
what'd you say?
That's the original for you, and then we got one more, that, for the, certificate of vote.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that, okay.
So we got an email from DES saying the certificate of vote isn't valid, that there needs to be a authorization signed by the chairman, authorizing Ron to sign on behalf and, agreeing to accept the grant funds.
This is for accepting grant funds. In other words, you did this once, but for some reason, because the minutes of that meeting did not have something to do with the grant, I don't know, it was in the email. She said we need to do it again.
Yeah.
This is coming from Aaron Holmes. So this is just the authorization form that authorizes, that says you agree to accept the grant funds and to enter into a contract with DES, for their grant agreement.
So you're gonna sign it and I'll notarize it?
And then it allows Ron to sign things once you've authorized it. What?
All right, so we don't need motions on this, just need signatures?
Yeah, that's just an authorization.
We need to, have
Do I
it
need
in
to read
minutes,
it?
because we said something about the minutes, that they have to vote to
right.
accept the grant funds.
I'll read it then.
Yep, okay.
All right, I, Donald Provencher, Chairman of Merrimack Village District, do hereby certify that a meeting held on November 18, 2019, the Merrimack Village District Board of Commissioners voted to enter into a drinking water and groundwater trust fund grant agreement with the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to fund a water system improvement project. The Merrimack Village District further authorizes Superintendent Ronald Minor Jr. to execute any documents which may be necessary to effectuate this grant agreement. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand as chairman of the Merrimack Village District this 18th day of November 2019. So it says here, Merrimack Village District Commissioners voted to enter into a drinking water, groundwater trust fund grant agreement, so I think.
That's notarization.
What's that?
The bottom part is just a notarization.
I know, but it says here that we voted,
Yeah, it does, you do require a vote.
so we
Jill's
probably
right.
do need a
That's
vote.
their template too, so.
Right. So I think we need a motion to agree to enter into a drinking water, groundwater trust fund grant agreement with NHDES.
In the amount of,
In the amount
was
of
that 1.6?
1.4 million, 1.45,
1.45.
1.45 million.
I'm surprised that's not on here.
Yeah.
Well, you
that's-
know, I asked, because I literally called Mike Unger, who, as you know, used to work for us, and said, this is pretty generic. It doesn't say anything about the project or anything. And he says, no, that accompanies other documents that they already have that they know that goes with the project. But I asked that question.
So this is just the grant, not the loan?
This is just the grant, right?
Okay. So is there somebody want to move that motion?
Motion to set the, with the New Hampshire DSS for the grant.
All right. Motion by Ken to enter into a drinking water and groundwater trust fund grant agreement with DES.
Second.
Second by Joe.
Can we just make sure that's clear, because in the minutes, it's gotta be clear that's for the 1.45 million for
Okay.
treatment?
For the $1.45 million for,
PFAS treatment of wells 2,
PFAS
3, 7, 8. And iron manganese treatment.
is that only going to wells 7 and 8?
I think it's 2, 3.
2, 3 and 7 and 8.
I thought we were doing the drinking water grant for wells 7 and 8 so we can avoid SRF funds.
That's true. We don't want SRF funds. We were taking SRF funds and not putting them in 7 and 8.
No.
No.
Yeah, no SRF funds.
That's what
For 7 and 8.
Keith recommended.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That way we're only dealing with the baggage of SRF
For the
On wells
one
2 and
project.
on wells
3.
2 and 3.
Yes.
Right, correct. You're right.
But does that mean we can't use the 1.45 towards wells 2 and 3?
I think you could use it for both, right?
We probably could use it for both. Is
Yeah,
it-
I'm not exactly sure.
All right, so 1.45 million to be used for wells 2, 3, 7, and 8. Either of them.
Yep.
So that was a motion by Ken, and it was
Nice
seconded by
motion,
Joe. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No abstentions or oppositions. Carries 4-0-0. And I'll sign this.
Because I think you're saying 2, 3, 7, and 8. Now you're leaving yourself open to do either of them.
Yes, I agree.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You'll take care of that?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
get it over to Aaron.
Okay.
Do you want a
All
copy?
right.
You can just email me a copy.
What else do we have?
I think that's all for
Is that all
us,
you
unless
guys-
you have anything else?
I don't think so.
No? Good, okay.
That was it.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was a lot to cover.
Yes.
So, you're thinking of setting up a, like a technical review?
A
session
workshop?
thing? Workshop?
Yes, we will need to set that up, so we'll need to get some schedules. We'll send something out by email on that.
Probably like the week after Thanksgiving, you think?
But that would be,
Yeah.
Week
Then that
after
gives you-
Thanksgiving, is
Because
that-
if we're gonna be presenting the thing, if we could give that to you by the end of the week, the report, then that gives you the Thanksgiving week to do that, then,
Would you have the layout of the flipped building and the revised site layout for
at
that
the,
meeting?
at the work session
Yeah.
meeting, we could, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I think we can do
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
Why don't
Might
you
not be
figure
as
out,
pretty with all the labels, but we can mirror a lot of the equipment and stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah,
why don't you figure out when you're gonna have
Okay.
that done, and then
okay,
make sure that we set the meeting up for after that?
Okay.
Could that be down here?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we had the last one up there. That's right. We'll travel this time.
This is closer for me.
Yeah. So you went to the site visit at Wells 4 and 5 on Thursday?
Yep.
He came to the last couple project meetings.
Good. I wanted to go to that, but I
Yeah.
couldn't make it to that one.
They don't have coffee at those things.
No. Okay.
All right.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Appreciate it.
Like
Happy
you go.
Thanksgiving.
Now we're gonna leave that.
You'll figure that out when you walk outside.
They'll know who it belongs to. It's sitting under
You guys want to proceed, or you want to take a couple minutes break? How you guys
I'd
doing?
rather
Get it over? All right, see you guys.
Dog's at home with his legs crossed.
All right, moving along. Board of Commissioners to hear update on St. Cobain water main extensions and private well hookups.
There's 3 left.
Is that?
Short version.
Okay?
That was as of Friday, so I wasn't sure.
Where are those? What road are we on here?
I don't remember.
There's only 3 though, huh?
Yeah, there's a tree that's in the way, and then there's 2 others that need to be directional board.
Oh, yeah.
So the contractor was waiting on them to free up their schedule and get over and do that. So those will be the last 3.
Okay. Any other questions or anything, comments on that?
Nope.
Okay, where are we next? So, Board of Commissioners to review minutes of September 16th and October 21st, public and non-public. I just had a general question about reviewing non-public minutes in a public meeting. I don't have any comments, but
Yeah.
I think we gotta review non-public minutes in a non-public session.
I don't see why we have to review any of them. We've been advised by our attorneys that we don't have to keep minutes, we don't have to approve them.
Yeah, but if we're gonna have minutes, I'd like them to be not
You can
with
review.
errors or something in it, you know? I don't have any comments on those. I don't have any comments on any of these,
I have 1 or 2.
so. But it's because I got them ahead of time. So I already made a couple minor little.
But I would agree on the non-public, I think.
It just seems like a obvious thing. Like if I said, I think this should say this, then you're kind of divulging non-public words in a public session, so. But anyways, go ahead, Wolf, sorry.
And I wouldn't mind on the non-public ones, some kind of water sign, I don't know.
Okay.
Because I,
Confidential or something.
yeah, because I was reading and I was like, that doesn't seem right. And then I realized they're confidential, so non-public. Okay, just quick on the September 16 ones. Page 3, line 29. Availability should be ability. Asked about the ability for a tractor trailer, not availability.
Mhm.
About the what?
Ability.
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 Tractor trailer to be able to make that turn, not being available to make that turn. Page 6 of 10, line 4. P4 is the one that exceeds the. I think this should be reading is P4 is the only one that exceeds the MCL of 12. Not the 12 MCLs. 12 parts per trillion. It's quoting you, so you tell me if I'm right.
Yeah. PFOA is the one that exceeds the 12 MCL. All others are below the new proposed limits.
PFOA is the only one that exceeds the MCL of 12.
MCL of 12,
Okay.
PPT.
Or maybe even leave the 12 out actually, that exceeds the new MCL.
Yeah, you could say that.
And then on September 16. Ready? September 16?
That's what we're on here already.
Oh, we are? Well,
Yeah, wasn't it?
no, well, yeah, it was.
You got 2 copies, one from last time probably.
Oh, yeah. Why did, okay, that's weird. Okay, so page 2 of 3, line 45. Stated that he feels it reads as angles. You know what, forget about that. Forget about it.
Okay.
I just caught my mistake. That's it.
All right, any other corrections, questions, anything for September 21st minutes? September 16th minutes, sorry. Do you want to do these individually for approval? Or you want to just move to October 21st minutes?
I think we were all present on all of them, right? So we can just go.
Yep, looks like it.
Well, we totally wasn't, so we should be good to go in one.
What's
one-
that?
We should be good to go in one motion
I think so.
on all of them.
Yep. So anybody have any questions or comments on the October 21st meeting minutes, public meeting minutes? Seeing none, we can move along and look at the October 21st non-public meeting minutes. If anybody has any comments on these, we probably should table them for non-public session, but if no one has any comments on these, then we could probably just approve them as they exist right now. Everybody good with that? All right, so I guess we can entertain a motion to approve 3 minutes. One September 16th, October 21st, and the October 21st non-public
There's
as presented.
September non-public as well.
I have one edit on those.
Oh, there is September non-public.
Mhm.
I didn't see
I
that.
have one edit on those.
Is it just grammatical?
Mm,
Okay.
It's content.
All right, then wanna table that one?
Just as corrected,
Yeah.
just as corrected.
Yeah, as corrected, and I can give you the edit.
Just
It's-
the grammar.
It's a small edit, but it's.
Okay, so we're doing all 4 of these, the September 16th, public and non-public, and the October 21st, public and non-public minutes, and the September 16 non-public minutes as amended by Wolf. Does that sound
So
like
move.
a motion?
Second. Go ahead.
All right, moved by Joe, second by Ken. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any oppositions, abstentions? All right, the minutes carry 4-0-0. And what do we have here? Just old business. Next. Anybody have any old business to want to bring forth?
Do we know anything new about Saint-Gobain meeting with the town council?
Last I knew was the email that I put in the packet. Haven't heard anything else now.
And that was, I don't know if there's any follow-up to that. I know they're not coming to the next town council meeting. Were there 2 seats that we were supposed to pick people to sit on that committee?
I don't, they just asked,
We're not-
We're talking about the community engagement
Yeah.
committee, right?
Yeah. Advisory, well, a community advisory council.
Okay.
I haven't even emailed back or anything, and, but I can, and I can express that we'd like a couple, you know, additional representation, I guess.
Yeah, I would like to have, I mean, at this point, would we want to tell them who wants to be on, you know, how many we want to have from MVD on there? Be good to have a couple, at least, I think, a couple people, 2 or 3, whatever your wishes, if you want to be part of it, or, I don't know if you have to decide who the people are gonna be tonight, but,
Oh, I don't think so, I think it was just the, they were wondering if there was the interest of us,
yeah, definitely.
that's the email. Well, there's copies of Joe Martin. And I did have one question. Should I reach out to, Greg with this to see if there's any kind of, anything that should hold us back from doing it?
I think it's not a bad idea.
I was actually about to say the same thing. The question is if Greg should even be part of that, physically. Or
I don't think this
some
is,
representation of some sort, but.
I don't know. There's some weird questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why don't we do that? and run
Has
this
anybody
by?
else gotten one of these? Down?
I don't know. I can inquire about that. I don't, but I don't know.
I imagine they'd send it to the town as well, right?
Yeah.
Who else, I'd like to see who else they send it to.
I think Lorraine Allen's involved in the public,
This is by, they've been hired by St. Cobain.
Hmm.
right.
Do you know who
They
they
were
sent
there
it to?
at
Who they had sent
the
invitations
last
to?
town meeting, right?
Yeah, there was a
last week.
list of who the people they wanted at one point. I don't think the
Really?
email's in here
I think they
anywhere.
were outside
From this company?
when you walked in.
The select?
We gave them the information.
I think it was from this company.
Yes, I think you're right. I think
Really?
they did mention that there was somebody there.
Is it part of here?
I think the list that you're thinking of was the sodium and chloride meeting.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. No, but there was a, St. Cobain sent a letter to the town council, I thought, also saying who they were considering, or they left it up to the council to appoint
It was
who
pretty
they wanted.
general,
on-
yeah, they weren't saying specifically.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I know Lorraine Allen's been dealing with this guy because she's the one that kind of spearheaded this thing. So she's probably trying to set some ground rules about who they want to get from the public involved in the group. So I think she's dealing with that part of it. I think the council was going to assign who from the town wants to go. And I guess they're asking us here to figure out if we want to participate in this thing. I think at a minimum, we need to sit there and listen to what's being said. Because
Absolutely, yeah.
in case,
I would hope more.
I would hope more too, but if we're running this by certain legal people, the answer might be, stay home.
No,
And that's,
Yeah.
no, we can be
I'm
present.
telling you
for
right
sure.
now, that's not gonna fly with me.
No, no, we can be present for sure. We can be present anywhere we want to.
Yeah. Let's see.
We just have to understand what we're saying.
Right. That's why I'm saying, we gotta be there to at least see and listen,
No, I fully agree with that.
at a minimum. God forbid we actually have a dialogue.
How many people are all together?
Maybe a dozen,
Oh, is it?
15 or something like that. Yeah, I forget, I thought there was an original request to the town council that spelled it out a little bit in more detail, but maybe they just left it up to the town council to select. You know, there was like certain representatives from the town, certain from the public, certain from different aspects of who the stakeholders are, I guess. And I think they're reaching out. I'm pretty sure Lorraine Allen was corresponding with the same people, and probably Eileen from the town, and Tom Koenig, the chair of the town council, was also corresponding and trying to set up. I think the town council wants to bring St. Cobain into a town council meeting to talk about this in public. Because again, this is kind of asking us to reach out to them and talk to them, not in public. And I think the town council wants to do everything in public.
Yeah.
I
Right.
agree with that. That's my understanding.
That's my understanding.
Well, the difference is though, this gentleman here seems to be just a moderator kind of company, not like a legal representation of any sort, let
No.
alone a single paying employee. So this seems to be a moderator. that they're probably just hiring somebody that is leading the meeting professionally, that can bring people in, or,
They had one of these at Hooksett Falls, correct?
Hoosick Falls, I think so.
I wonder if it's, I would be curious if it's the same company, if it was.
So are they asking for answers to these questions? What's your availability? What role does the CAC play in facilitating better communications between St. Cobain and the community? What guidelines do you think are necessary to ensure objective, honest, and respectful exchange for everyone? What timeline do you think is realistic for establishing the CAC? To you, so you want to respond?
Yeah, no, I can definitely, I wanted to let you.
Tell us where, I mean,
Obviously bring it to the board first, let you know
Yeah.
that I got this. I'd like to talk to Greg first,
Right.
and I actually want to touch base with Eileen and see if she,
who else is,
Yeah.
what the makeup of the group is? Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember the request was for the town council to set up the makeup of the group. And, I'm not sure if they're proceeding with that, because I think they're waiting to have St. Cobain come in to one of their meetings first. So until that happens, I don't know if the town council's not gonna be taking charge of this, from what I think I understand, unless St. Cobain comes and meets with them first. I think that was when we were there at the last, well, the previous meeting.
I think we ought to have at least 2 members,
Yeah,
in my opinion. I'd like to see a number of the entire council. This is the CAC.
yep. Community Advisory Council.
Yeah. So,
All right, so
look into it.
bring it to Greg and tell him if we can go ahead with it, tell him there's a couple of seats that we'd like to have on there, and we'll wait for the commission to be established. And I mean, as far as some of these answers, the timelines, as soon as they can get it up and running,
Yeah.
there's nothing to prevent us from, and I don't know about guidelines about ensure honest and respectful exchange. I'm not really sure how to answer
Level of
that.
interest is high.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, let's see, we got anything else? I don't think I have anything more. Something in the last minutes I wanted to just see. There was a follow-up.
thank you,
Hmm?
thank you. Thank you letter.
Oh, yeah. I still don't have the thank you letter done. I'm not sure if anybody else can put that together at this point, but I'd still like to get a thank you letter out to the Drinking Water, Groundwater Trust Fund, and I just haven't had a chance to put that together, and I don't know if I will by the next meeting, but if no one else wants to do it, then I guess we can just pass on it, because I just got enough stuff going on. I have to relinquish something here, so I'm not gonna bother doing that.
I'll take it.
You wanna do it?
I
Thanks.
thought we weren't doing that because there was a public thank you. Wasn't that at the meeting?
Yeah, but nobody from the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund knows about that. It's kinda like, would be targeted to them. Senator Morse and, the members there. I guess that was all. So the letter that went out to the property owners in the wellhead protection area for sodium chloride, that's out there. No one's called with any follow-up to that or anything like that, right?
I think everything, no.
Okay. I think that was all I had. All right, I'm good. there's nothing else, then you guys can, a motion to adjourn if you.
Do the superintendent's
Oh, I'm
I don't-
sorry.
I don't have anything, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Questions?
Well, questions from the public, questions from the press? Nobody here? Now you can go.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Joe, seconded by
Ken?
Ken. All those in favor,
Well-
signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, oppositions, no, 400. Thanks. Meeting is adjourned.